The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keeping It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Not content with one, how about two? Pinche Loco! And now, Paige out of LP, fuck, and we got it! How could he, Kevin?
El Desperado has done it! 7 years, almost to the day, since the first time he challenged for that championship. And 6.5 years since he joined Suzuki to tap into who that man really is, with or without the mask. That is El Desperado, the top of this division. Mid-level junior, screw that. That man is the best junior heavyweight wrestler in the world.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Chris Sampson from SportOfProWrestling.com. On today's show, we'll be discussing New Beginning in USA Night 2, both nights of Castle Attack, previewing the 49th anniversary show and the New Japan Cup, answering your questions, and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network or to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Tee store, protees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details.
It really does. Danny, you're the man.
Yeah, shout out to our man Danny and the extension. And like I heard in the intro, we got Chris Sampson on the show once again. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome. Happy to be with you guys. The main event of my podcast car wash this week, leading up to the New Japan Cup. So, as always, cleared the whole schedule. Got all night. No day job tomorrow. We can just keep going.
Nice.
Well, this is the first time we've timed out an episode, so.
Yeah, as you heard in the intro, we got lots of stuff to cover this week. A lot of big topics, a lot of reviews, previews, a lot of dissect here. But real quick, I wanted to start off from an interesting question over for our friends at the Super J-Cast.
Oh, you're giving those guys top billing?
You know, I am. You know, a lot of people, they want a podcast war. They think there's heat, but I want to show that there is no heat. I want to, open up, give them top billing here on the show.
It's not top billing, though. It's curtain jerking if it's first.
Well, it's fresh. It's the first thing out, that first match is very important. It sets the pace and tone for the whole show.
Yeah, I like this question. Let's get into it.
So they asked us, what would it take for any of you to reach the fuck this I'm out point of your NJPW fandom and or podcasting? Have you been feeling the grind more as of late? So Chris, we'll throw to you first.
Oh, wow. Me first. So I don't know. I understand this question and I understand the grind. So, and I was talking about it with somebody yesterday. I think it was with Garrett Gonzalez or Sean Radican, but we were talking about how to go straight from Wrestle Kingdom into like a bunch of Road to New Beginning shows and then New Beginning without the gap of Fantasticomania is, I think actually causing some of this like New Japan fan burnout, right? I think Fantasticomania has, I'm recognizing its purpose for the fan base now because it actually creates this reason to kind of check out potentially or keep checked in a different way with a whole different style of tour, a little bit of variety. Maybe you see some of the guys you're used to and a bunch of luchadors and all that. So, and I think that actually plays a cool role in keeping the product feeling fresh. And then instead we went straight from Wrestle Kingdom right into New Beginning, a ton of New Beginning shows. And if you're trying to watch everything, it was a ton of really similar shows. And then really peaks and valleys of some of these big shows too, right? Some of them are clearly loaded up and some of them were a little lighter. So, in a sense of in-ring output, I think we're getting the same amount of high-end positive stuff happening, but because of the volume of output that they're also doing, you're also getting some stuff that's not noteworthy at all. In regards to like what it would take for me to check out completely, my role in the fandom, I guess, or in the community is largely based on history and tying stuff together, right? So like you can't change that, and that stuff's all really good. It is the best pro wrestling that's existed for almost 50 years, right? Like on a whole, if you look at it, like it's been the steadiest. And I choose not to get involved in rumors or backstage or who's where until something actually happens. So, and in that point, maybe there is a point and I'll recognize it when I get there, but I don't know. Most of what I do is look back, and I don't particularly look a ton at rumors or news sites or get involved in the politics of it also. And I get it that people do. It's the pro wrestling industry, but I'm lucky enough that I've created a space for myself where I don't have to do it and can still be involved.
Listen to this company man answer. No, that's a great answer. My feeling here is, with fandom and podcasting, those are almost, they go hand in hand, but they're not mutually exclusive. But they could be, our role as being podcasters, it necessitates us to follow and keep up with the product on a level that most quote unquote fans don't necessarily have to. And so, a lot of you listening kind of get the luxury of maybe tuning into this show or some other, media site and being able to gather your resources and then tune in for, pick and choose what you'd like to watch. We don't really have that luxury. So I could imagine with the grind aspect of it. Yeah, they're churning out a lot of shows. Yeah, they've got low attendance because of, the state of emergency and, creatively, I do wonder if Gato is, at the tail end of his creative genius, just because historically speaking, that happens to every great booker. And I can't think of another one that's had the kind of run in history that Gato has had consistently. So, things are changing. That being said, if I was able to just pick and choose, I'd probably feel, less exhausted with the product. That being said, for 2 or 3 weeks, you feel that way. And then all of a sudden you get a string of great cards like we just had here. And we're going into another string of likely great matches with this really exciting tournament. And everything changes very quickly.
Yeah.
As far as what it would take, and me and Jeremy talked about this off air, there's 2 things that really drive me to this product. One is the fantastic booking, and then one is the fantastic in-ring product. And those 2 things usually do work hand in hand and they elevate one another, but there have been products where they have really great matches and nonsensical, non-logical booking. And then there've been times where there's companies that have really fantastic booking, real great character story work, but the in-ring work doesn't hold up. For me, I lean more towards the in-ring work. If this company ever got to a point where the booking started becoming nonsensical and really fell off the deep end for a period of time. We've seen it in New Japan in the past. It's not like it's never happened. I'd still be around as long as I could get bangers like Ishii, Goto matches, Suzuki matches, these young lion matches that we're getting. That stuff's still going to draw me here. And if I'm able to combine that with burying the product if it got really bad and lighting it on fire, that's just going to draw a whole different sect of audience to our show. And that would be a whole different thing altogether. We saw a little bit of that with Evil last year.
Yeah.
Now, if the product got to a point where we weren't getting matches like the Naito Ibushi match we just got, we weren't getting Mox and Kenten and
Shingo Tanahashi.
And these guys just couldn't go. I don't care how good the product is booked. That might really create a deficit for me, just creatively to still cover it. I'll always be a fan of New Japan. I have for almost my entire life, so that's not going to change. But as far as podcasting, as long as they're turning out the bangers, I'm going to still show up.
Yeah, my answer very similar to you guys, and very similar to Josh. Like I mentioned, we talked about this before we recorded, but essentially it would have to become WWE to me to kind of be I'm out. I watched WWE from the time I was 3, like hardcore, up until 2017, where they really just kind of fell off a cliff hard, and a lot of the stuff they were doing with Roman and Brock and Jinder as a champion and stuff like that, and like that's to the point where like the booking wasn't making sense. The matches weren't good. Like nothing mattered. Like, it was hard to invest. So if it gets to a point like that, like even like the Evil thing, I didn't agree with. Obviously, everybody knows that we weren't big fans of that, but there were still great matches. Overall, there was still great booking all throughout the company. And so it would have to take to that point where literally nothing matters. Nothing makes sense. It's hard to invest. There's no more great matches like you mentioned, Josh. Like if we're not getting these bangers and these awesome classic main events, then yeah, it would take a lot for me. It would definitely be a grind in that case to try and review stuff that wasn't great. But yeah, I haven't been feeling the grind though, as far as just with the amount of shows that they are just churning out. And we're going to talk about the New Japan Cup schedule here in a second and just how many shows are just dumping out there. And so yeah, as a podcaster, content creator, it is a little overwhelming when you're trying to balance this and your real job and responsibilities elsewhere and relationships. And so I definitely get if the JCast guys are feeling that grind, because I do feel the grind. But I do love New Japan. They've been giving us some great matches so far this year.
Joel Damon, don't give up. We need you in this space. That's a great question. Let's talk real briefly Wrestler of the Month, Match of the Month. So we're here in the early part of March. February's just ended, and we are proud to announce for the first time ever the Wrestler of the Month, El Desperado.
Yeah, double junior champ right now, one half of the junior heavyweight tag champs and the new junior tag champ or new junior singles champ. And we're going to talk about his Castle Attack wins in a second here. But yeah, we wanted to give props to Desperado just for having a great month and ending the month as double champ.
A lot of people said that we were haters because we didn't award him as MVP of the Best of the Super Juniors. We didn't give him Wrestler of the Month either of those 2 months when we awarded to Hiromu. But in this month, man, I mean, he was the guy. I mean, he won, the long held title that they've held before. First time he's ever, won the junior title. Now he's challenging for the big belt. So yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yep. And then for our match of the month, we have the main event of night 2, Castle Attack for the IC title, which ends up being the last IC title defense as Kota Ibushi faced off against his old rival Tetsuya Naito in an absolute banger on that main event of Castle Attack night 2.
Well, I don't think it is. I think they're still doing a double title defense at the
for Despy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, they announced it as the opposite. They announced it as not a title defense, and then they posted on social media. They're like, the titles are on the line.
Gotcha.
And then before that, they were like, but Ibushi's the first ever world champion. Yeah. But
yes, they've already awarded him that, but he's also got to defend this other belt and these other 2 belts that they're gonna take away.
I hope Despy wins and gets the 2 belts, and then they give the new belt to Ibushi. And everyone's complaining about how they need to consolidate belts. They just add a belt.
Despy's like, no, I'm keeping them. We're going to keep going.
Before we move on, Chris, how do you think we did these picks? You got a different opinion? Or
No, I mean, I have a soft spot for Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito. So that was going to be my match of the month if it wasn't good, and it was good. So no issue there. I think there were other really good matches, especially this past weekend too.
Yeah.
Like there was some there, and we'll talk a lot more about those cards. And then, I mean, Desperado showed up when New Japan really needed him, to be honest. So I think that's honorable, both in the junior tag match as well as showing up in that 3-way in a way that made it really compelling when they had to pivot in a semi-main event on a big show. So he showed up, and I think he's got this growing fan base, specifically with like English speaking fans, that he's kind of this almost underdog style beloved junior. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if New Japan leverages that as the year continues on.
Yeah, low key, this guy did show up in big spots all last year too. So Sonata, pay attention.
But now we're gonna move on to New Japan Strong. We had New Beginning in USA Night 2 this past.
Wait, we gotta plug the contest.
Oh yeah,
we gotta get that in early, right?
Yeah, let's get that in.
I'm here for the hard sell. We got to get that in before we dive into literally everything else.
All right, Chris, get your shit in.
It's not mine.
No,
it's not my contest.
It's ours.
I'm just hosting it.
Yeah. So shout out to Chris. Some of you guys have seen on Twitter. We're hosting our contest on Chris's website, sportofprowrestling.com. You can go to sportofprowrestling.com/kiss. That's sportofprowrestling.com/KISS to enter in the 4th annual Keeping It Strong Style New Japan Cup Pick'em. 3 great prizes. 3rd place, you get the King of Strong Style autobiography, Shinsuke Nakamura. 2nd place, you get Lion's Pride, the turbulent history of New Japan Pro Wrestling by Chris Charlton, who we've had on this show before. The grand prize is a $50 gift card to Pro Wrestling Tees. You can grab a Keeping It Strong Style shirt, grab some New Japan merch, increase that merch. So ProWrestlingTees.com, that's the gift card you're going to get. You go to sportofprowrestling.com/kiss to enter in that contest. So no more email me brackets and me counting by hand. Chris is a godsend. It's all
I'm a savior for the community.
Yeah, it's all automated. You go to the site, you type in your nickname, you type in your email. Very easy, nice little pop-up. It got our red and black colors. You make your picks, and boom, it's all there for you.
And this is just the start. This is gonna be the Draft Kings of pro wrestling.
Just the beginning.
I'm trying to make a mountain out of a molehill here.
Listen, you're gonna do it, man.
And while you're there, jump on over and fill out another bracket for the Sport of Pro Wrestling contest. I've got brackets from Rocky Romero, Kevin Kelly, some other of the New Japan media members coming in as we go here. So
hit them up, tell them to enter our contest.
There's links for everything, pal. It's up to them. That's up to them.
There's a ton of bracket contests on sportofprowrestling.com, including Chris's big bracket challenge that he's doing as well. Ton of great prizes. Chris is giving away a $100 token shop spending spree. So a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. And listen, guys, I had someone hit me up recently and they're like, oh, I submitted my thing, but I wanted to make some changes. I got some different ideas. Can I do 2? Can I make changes? And no, you can't. But here's what you could do. If you wanted to be, smart about it, you could do an alternate bracket for an alternate contest and increase your chances of winning across the board. Or if you really believe in yourself, enter the same bracket across the board, and if you're the best, you're gonna get all the loot.
Clean up.
You're gonna clean up, man. So
I'm a big fan of the different brackets for different contests, so you at least have probably something to pay attention to as you go all the way through. But listen, if you're confident, get into it.
Yeah,
it's a fun time.
I like to live boldly, gentlemen.
That's what I did. I entered one bracket into the Keeping It Strong Style contest, and I entered a different bracket in for your bracket challenge, Chris. And so
nice.
I know there's some few more. I'll probably maybe change up some stuff on some brackets. So there's multiple options for me to potentially get a prize here.
So let's run through Strong. This past Friday night, New Beginning in USA, Night 2. We started the night off with ACH, Brody King, the Regal Twins, defeating the team of Clark Connors, Kevin Knight, the DKC, and TJP, 8 minutes and 36 seconds. After that, we had singles action as Ren Narita upset and surprised everybody by defeating Chris Dickinson, 7 minutes, 51 seconds. Real briefly, I love this match. It was awesome to see a never-style match.
Yeah.
in the USA.
Dude, our man, Ren Narita, we've been behind him since day one.
Since we started this podcast.
Yeah, Young Lions Cup, him and Yagi having those bangers.
Him and Yagi is my favorite Young Lion match ever.
And our man here, tapping out Chris Dickinson. This was an awesome little match.
I had a blast with this match. I was super surprised by how violent the match was, I guess. I mean, like, really. I don't know. Part of that's because the wrestling on Strong is really good. Always. Like, it has been since the beginning. I mean, like, these guys show up and they wrestle matches, and it's really good. But it's not always, like, aggressive.
Yeah.
So, and this match felt aggressive, and like by the end of it, it made sense. The finish ended up making a lot of sense. Dickinson looked great working with Narita. Narita looked great. You know, and you guys, I'm sure at least one of you guys saw the backstage with Narita and Shibata.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that's a thread throughout Narita's whole career. Like, I hope he's becoming, you know, that guy, right? That really like Shibata understudy guy. And I think that'd be a cool role for him.
He was like, you think that's a chop? This is a chop. This is a chop. Listen, that's not what it's like in the side dojo. Matt would be like, yeah, that was great. You might want to try opening up a little bit more. Just follow through. Let's try it again. Oh, that was really, really good. Okay, let's move on. Like, nothing like that. I don't think I can make it in the LA dojo, man.
Yeah, dude, they were slapping the crap out of each other. Very hard hitting. I popped when Narita hit that Narita leg lace, got the Narita special on, and submitted Dickinson. So 2 big wins here for Narita. He defeated Bateman a few weeks ago. Now he's defeating Dickinson. So big things on the horizon for our man Ren Narita.
One funny thing about the aggressiveness of this match, you know, one reason I think we are seeing less aggression on some of these undercards, because you got a lot of guys that are not fetishizing Japanese wrestling, you know, they're doing that soft indie style. But we all know my man Chris Dickinson, he fetishizes Japanese wrestling. He don't give a fuck.
He's about that life.
He's about it. And then let's talk about the big match, the match probably the most viewed. Literally, when I tuned in to watch this for the first time, I think ever, my New Japan World was dropping and lagging, and it wasn't keeping up with the time. I had to like restart like 5 or 6 times. That's never happened. Not during a Wrestle Kingdom, not during a Dominion or a G1 final. So there had to be a lot of people tuning in for this, because my shit was fucking up, and that never happens.
Yeah, man, the big main event here for the IWGP US Heavyweight title. The champion, Jon Moxley, defends and retains against the winner of the New Japan Cup USA
Shocker.
2020, Kenta.
Shocker.
Chris, man, what were your thoughts on this big, strong main event here?
I love it. I love the result. I love the match. I love that they kept it tight, you know, 15 minutes and Jon Moxley comes out with the win. Not a lot of goofy back and forth false finishes. I mean, just a brawl, you know, and they did the best style match you can do in an empty arena. And they acted like it was no big deal. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I was a proponent of Moxley holding on to the belt. I was a proponent of him. I was a proponent of him holding on to the belt through the pandemic, first of all. And then I'm still a proponent of him being a champion in New Japan. He's not done. He's not done in New Japan. He doesn't want to be done in New Japan. He's got a lot that he wants to accomplish with New Japan. And I think the US title is just the beginning. But I do also think that Jon Moxley holding on to the US title gives people reason to challenge him. And without reason to challenge a guy that's, you know, halfway across the globe, it's tough. You know, that's tough. That's tough to build out if you're trying to build something from Japan over to the US, right? So, but if he's got a title, and now we have one fewer big singles title to go after, you've got a reason to call out Jon Moxley like Kenta did the whole time. Where's Moxley, right? And I don't know if that happens on Strong, or maybe they've got an inside track or confidence that they're going to be able to get Moxley over to Japan a little bit easier, or he's going to take some time off from AEW for one of the big shows coming up. But I think he's a great champion. I think he's on top of his game, and there's no reason not to try to continue that relationship.
I wasn't a fan of him holding it through the pandemic just because the traditionalist in me wants them to abide by their own rules. But aside from that, from a business standpoint, I 100% understand why they did it. It makes all the sense in the world. As far as who was going to win here, I thought, Kenta needed to win this belt so we'd have a champion that could go back and forth very easily, as they've shown that Kenta can. And maybe you're right, Chris. Maybe Mox is going to continue to come back and forth. He's already voiced his, desire to do that. So this might end up being a positive thing. One thing I loved about the match was how invested in the outcome different camps of wrestling fandom were. There were those who were truly, utterly disappointed when their hero Kenta lost here.
Yeah.
And they almost like hyped him up as this representative of their New Japan fandom against the AEW star who hijacked their belt. That's one narrative that they were giving. And then on the other hand, you have people who are kind of in between, who are New Japan fans, but see the benefit of Mox, being this mainstream global star who may potentially continue to showcase the belt on AEW. Who's to say that, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but who's to say he doesn't end up having defenses in AEW of the IWGP US title? That opens up that possibility. I also like the idea if potentially maybe once a quarter he comes back to Strong and does a defense once every 3 months or something like that.
Right.
That would be fucking cool. And then, potentially there is going to be a chance for him to come to Japan. I'll hand it to you, Jeremy, but what I loved about this match was just Kenta was so fucking vicious. This was like maybe, I don't want to say it was his best performance because it wasn't his best match or anything like that since he's come back, but this felt like 2006 Kenta, and that's what Mox asked for, and that's what he got. And they told an incredible story. And then at the end of it, when he just had nothing left to give, and he's throwing the middle fingers, and he's like, "Fuck you, Mox!" I love this. This and the elbow, I love it.
Yeah, dude, this was an awesome main event. I think easily the best match in the history of New Japan Strong thus far. Like you guys mentioned, it was a fight. And we've noticed in the empty arena era, the matches that feel like fights are the ones that perform the best and get a lot of great reaction and buzz-wise. And that's what these guys did here. Like you mentioned, Josh, Mox asked for, the Noah Kenta, the Kenta that was facing Kenta Kobashi and Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor. That's the Kenta he wanted, and that's the Kenta he got. And it was a very hard-hitting fight. And yeah, I love the table spot of Kenta. Kenta getting hit the elbow drop through Mox through the table. And yeah, it was just very hard hitting. And then I was surprised when Mox got him up for the Death Rider, dropped him right on his head, 1, 2, 3, retained the title. I think a lot of people like me just figured, they're going to switch the belt, get it back on Kenta so they can use it. But like you mentioned, Chris, you made a lot of great points, and it makes a ton of sense to keep it on Mox. And especially, we've seen tons of interviews in the last couple of weeks with Cody and Kenny and Tony Khan talking about the cracks of the Forbidden Door opening and how both sides are talking and there's a working relationship. And so, yeah, we were seeing the first Moxley, Strong appearance here, so maybe there's more down the line. We know that they do bulk tapings for Strong, so it could be very easily for him to go there on whatever day, do a bunch of tapings, and then not have to compromise the AEW schedule. And we've seen on AEW, Kenny Omega as the AAA champion, he's defending that title on Dark Road 4. So like you mentioned, Josh, him actually defending the U.S. title on an AEW show is, possible. That could happen. And so, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Keep it on Mox. And, yeah, I really enjoyed this main event. If you guys have not watched it, go out of your way to watch this main event. I went 4 stars on it. And
Same.
Yeah, I think it was worth the hype, and I hope a lot of people got hooked from this match.
Yeah. So after this match, they announced that this year's New Japan Cup USA tournament is going to be an 8-man field. It'll begin on April 2nd episode of New Japan Strong. The winner is going to receive a future championship match against Jon Moxley for the U.S. title. I'm hoping we don't have to wait quite as long to get that title defense. I'm hoping that whoever wins it doesn't have to carry that janky briefcase around. But you know what? Some people wouldn't like this, but I wouldn't mind if Kenta just fucking ran through everybody in the tournament and got the rematch that way and looked like a badass doing it. And then you're like, oh shit, I didn't want to see it again, but now I do because he just, killed Carl Fredericks or whatever,
Yeah. And that played into a question from Rambo and Slam Pig. He said, with Mox retaining the U.S. belt, but also likely to be on sabbatical soon with his baby being born, it might be a while until he defends again. Who do you think the next challenger will be and should be, and who should be the next champion?
Well, I mean, who's to say? I don't know how far along Renee is, but I think Moxley has a couple of months of work ahead of him before he takes any time off for paternity. That's just based on my, simple math of when he kind of announced that he was going to be a dad. So I think we got a little bit of time, and there's a chance that maybe the belt falls off him before then, if he's got a defense or two before then. Who should it be? I mean, I like the Kenta idea. I'm okay with that. I would also, you got to imagine it's going to be someone who can easily get to the U.S. or and is going to be in that United States champion or the New Japan Cup USA. I wouldn't mind that being the restart for someone like Carl Fredericks and an elevation. Maybe he's not going to win that match against Moxley, but to put him in it, it's a big deal, right? So, and then he needs to come back, no pun intended. He needs to come back strong. To get back his momentum from, really losing his opportunity to debut in a big spot, which was going to be around this time last year when he was going to debut against Kenta, not as a young lion anymore, in the first round of the New Japan Cup. So I think if I'm writing the story, he's in the picture at least.
Yeah, for me, I think I really like to see Filthy Tom Lawler be the winner of the New Japan Cup USA and be the next guy to challenge him. We just talked about how great these fight-style matches come off in this empty arena environment. What better guy than Filthy Tom, who's great at the shoot style, has been a standout on the Bloodsport shows. We've seen Mox work Bloodsport. They could work a very hard-hitting, maybe quasi-shoot match, be very intense, and Filthy Tom's a pretty big, independent name here in the U.S. I think that would garner a lot of buzz. I don't think they face each other on a Bloodsport. They haven't touched each other yet.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, so it'll be a first-time matchup. Big deal. Tom Lawler is great on the promos. Him and Mox back and forth on promos will be very good. And so that's a program I like to see.
Two names that are bigger names within strong product that could potentially make sense. One is a long shot, but there's always Jay Whiteo. Also, Jeff Cobb. I think Jeff Cobb could make a lot of sense. But if you wanted to elevate some of the newer faces, I don't think Chris Dickinson's a bad idea. I don't think Ren Narita is a bad idea. And some of the names that you guys mentioned as well. So they got options there. But we got some questions here.
Yeah, so first from Viking Pain, he says, so does the winner of the New Japan Cup USA 2021 tournament going to have to carry around that stupid red briefcase again until Moxley can defend the U.S. belt on the next Blue Moon? And is this where the recently rumored Marty Scurll shows up? Also, Jeremy and I talked about this. Thanks again, Jeremy. But what about the rest of you guys? Good idea, bad idea, and bringing in Marty Scurll.
So I'll start us off. I don't know if they're gonna have to carry around a briefcase. I'm kind of over briefcases. I liked when they just had like a little sheet of paper that was a contract for Jay White. That was pretty cool. But I'm hoping we can forego the guy having to defend his title shot until that point. Especially, I don't like it when a guy wins a tournament and then after going through the grueling tournament has to then turn around and defend his right. You know what I mean? He should just get the shot. As far as the Marty stuff, we pretty much know that that's probably the case, but it's not confirmed. We don't know. Who's to say that they don't just axe it, nix it off the card altogether? We're going to kind of wait and save that stuff for if and when it happens, but it's likely happening. And we said on the show it was going to happen a while back, and it's not good, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the briefcase piece, I would imagine this person's going to carry around a briefcase. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
wishful thinking.
It's just what happens around these parts. Kind of my counter question is what makes everyone think that they're going to book this tournament for a U.S. title shot after now establishing that Jon Moxley, reestablishing a relationship with Jon Moxley. Why do people think it's going to be just like it was last year? They've clearly figured some stuff out, and there's probably a plan in place for when he's going to defend this thing. And it may be in Japan, it may be here, right? It may be at Strong Again, it might be on AEW, right? There's a lot greater chance that there's a plan for exactly when it's going to be. And I don't think it's going to be in 383 days like this last run was.
Right. I mean, what if they somehow snuck an AEW guy into these strong tapings? You know, they all signed NDAs, you know, nothing gets out. So they could have sent over an AEW guy that's not being used on TV right now or that not in a program to be in this tournament and get the shot at Mox.
Well, we got another question here from Dun Diesel, and I think he threw out inadvertently a scenario that none of us really mentioned that I would love to see happen. He asked, does Mox keeping the U.S. belt mean we might see him more regularly on Strong, possibly in Japan? I think we addressed that. But he said, I'm really anxious to get that match with ZSJ that COVID robbed us of. How awesome would it be if Zach was brought over for, you know, this set of tapings, or he may have already, and we don't even know about it. And, you know, he ends up being the guy. I don't know. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Definitely want to see that Mox Saber match. I know there was somebody else, you know, Mox had teased on Observer Radio. There's a cool match that nobody would see coming that he wants. So who knows what that could be.
Yeah, I headcanoned that for like an hour. I was like, who? He's like, you wouldn't know it, but it was going to be awesome. You never would think of it. And I was like, I wonder if Garrett or Dave asked him what that was and if I could find out, because I'm very curious.
I'm like, Hinare? Makabe? Nagata? Who the fuck is it?
Shooter? I mean, like, is that I don't know.
That'd be cool.
The return of Shooter.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be dope.
Big turn.
Marty Skrull? Yeah.
Yikes. So this coming up Friday begins the Road to Strong Style Evolved, and we're going to have some qualifying matches for the New Japan Cup USA 2021 tournament. But the show is going to open up with the return of Carl Fredericks and the return of Alex Coughlin to New Japan Strong. It's actually going to be Coughlin's strong debut. Him and Fredericks will team up to go against Clark Connors and Kevin Knight. Then the first qualifying match of the night is going to be Filthy Tom Lawler versus DKC. And then the main event, and also a qualifying match for the New Japan Cup USA, our good friend Rocky Romero taking on Leo Rush.
One interesting point I'd just like to make is, you know, Leo Rush and Rocky are both traditionally juniors. So, you know, Leo Rush, what if he was like the guy that got all the way through and that's the cool match nobody's thinking of? That would be kind of something different, interesting, you know, that there's not really the weight limitations here in you know, on the U.S. side of New Japan.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And to kind of end our strong conversation here, we had a question from Twitter follower at Conman520. He says, what NJPW Strong not featured yet on the main roster shows do you think has the best chance to cross over and break out in Japan?
Is he talking about competitor?
Yeah, so like what like, you know, Dickinson, Lawler, Gandon, a strong guy that's not currently on like the main quote unquote New Japan roster.
I'll just give you a quick answer, Chris Dickinson.
Well, you
yeah,
Chris?
I think Dickinson and Lawler. I think Lawler could do some good too. But Dickinson's been awesome on Strong, and he's just so invested. He's the guy. He's the guy I want to see come over.
Aesthetically, he looks like a New Japan guy of yesteryear. You know, he just reminds me of Inokiism, but not the bad parts, the badass parts.
I mean, you can picture that guy with the Never belt.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? Like, you can just picture him walking in with the Never belt, going straight up to Jeff Cobb or something, you know?
Yeah, Dickinson would be my answer to. Philly Tom could be a close second. I think Leo Rush, I mean, there's still the door to be open to see kind of what he does in a New Japan environment on a main show against some of the other talented juniors on that roster. You know, him in like the best of Super Juniors, I think could be really cool to see.
There's still the door for him to show how good he is. Period. Period. This guy has not had one single great match since he left WWE a year ago, and I'm keeping tally.
But he is traveling internationally since the pandemic began because he was on MTV's The Challenge, which was definitely not filmed in America.
Yeah.
He was in Mexico too for Triple.
Oh yeah,
that's right. He was the Marvel match.
He was Spider-Man.
I've been talking about on the show how I've been talking about on the show how, like, you know, he lives off a reputation right now. People like act like he's out there just putting on classics, but like I'm watching all of them and he's had no classics since he came back. Unlike say like ACH, who's putting out bangers. And
Yeah.
so
Ooh, ACH. Yeah, let's get him back too.
I love
Yes.
ACH.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are we
There's
getting-
there's some good talent on Strong. It's some real good wrestlers.
Are we getting regular ACH or Brody King ACH?
I don't know. Was that a rib? Like, what are we doing with that hoodie?
I don't know why they were the hood. You know, Brody King has been in Japan before, but never really in a serious capacity role. He's a guy that I would love for them to be able to bring back.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe he's a guy that could go up against Mox. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? He did a tour. He did a Best of the Super Juniors tour on the undercard, right?
Right. Yeah. He was teaming with Marty during that tour.
Yeah, they won all their matches till they faced Okada and he got Rainmaker.
All right, guys. So let's move on and talk about Castle Attack. We had 2 big Castle Attack shows this weekend. And we also had, before we got to the 2 Castle Attacks on the 27th and 28th, on the 25th, we had a Road 2 show with a tag title main event. Going to run through these results real quick, and then we'll briefly share our thoughts about the junior heavyweight tag team title match. So the card opened up. We had United Empire defeating Tanahashi, Kojima, and Yota Tsuji. We had the Chaos team of Okada, Sho, and Toriano defeating the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Dick Togo, and Evil. We had the Chaos team of Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi defeating Jay White, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa. The semi-main event, we had LIJ team of Sonata, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito defeating Ibushi, Honma, and Nagata. And then the main event was for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeat El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori to become the new Junior Tag Team Champions. Real quick, guys, what are your thoughts on this match?
I liked this match quite a bit. I was nowhere near as far down on the previous match that they had that had all the shenanigans and, you know, the multiple ref bumps and the cheating. I really, really enjoyed that match, and I've always pretty much generally enjoyed the chemistry between these two teams. You know, we saw them face off like in the junior tag title tournament, you know, late last year. So we've gotten some stuff out of them, and I thought they've always performed really well. But I think this match is a little more palpable for a lot of, you know, like the purist fans who don't want to see all that shenanigans. And that's kind of what you got here. Was you got a straight classic junior tag team title match. 20 minutes. I don't think it overstayed its welcome. And, you know, Jeremy, you called the finish almost to a T last week, where you said that Ishimori was going to get hit with a sudden death?
Yep, sudden death.
With a sudden death. And, you know, Ishimori died, and that left him completely out of the picture, and opened up the door for, you know,
PJ
Despy
Loco
and Kanemaru to wrap this thing up. It's nice.
What do you think, Chris?
I liked that they pretty much shot straight after the last match. Same as Josh. I didn't particularly dislike the last match. But it did border on like a parody of how much stuff can we fit in that's like really kind of out there. Whereas this one they shot mostly straight. So this was, you know, I prefer this. And I'll, you know, the title change, everyone thought it was going to mean El Phantasmo wins the junior heavyweight, right? The next night they were going to trade the belts. But Hiromu going down, really obviously put a wrench in the spokes here. So, yeah, enjoyed it. I love that El Desperado won this. We'll get further into it, but Desperado's the man right now. So, and I don't know if that's the spot, you know, Hiromu was going to be in, if they just replaced it, or if they just decided to like really strap the rocket to Despy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this match as well. I gotta say, it did start off kind of slow, and the crowd was kind of dead at the beginning, but it definitely picked up. The pace picked up, and at the end of the day, I thought it was a really good match, good title change. Really enjoy the work Desperado is doing here, and yeah, I'm glad I kind of called the finish there. And also, this main event match also led into establishing what the junior title match was going to be, because the opening of the show, Hiromu vacated the junior title and said, you know, he wanted Bushi to take his spot in the match, but Despy got the pin over ELP here with the pin J Loco in the main event, and or he pinned Ishimori, but still he got the win in the main event, and was like, you know, I got the win here, like I should be in this match too. And so obviously the IWGP committee decided to make this a triple threat for the junior title match on night 2, and that's how that match got set up.
Yeah, you can criticize, several of the booking decisions that have been made, over the past year within New Japan, but as a whole, it's still such a well-booked company, and this is, a prime example of that. I lean to the opinion that they audibled with some of these decisions based on Hiromu's injury. I don't know necessarily that they just straight up stuck Despy in his spot and just gave him Hiromu's booking. I don't think that's what happened here. I think that there was a likely scenario that was probably going to occur, and then they try to figure out, well, hey, we have to elevate this guy in a short period of time. What can we do here? And we saw something similar the other year when Jon Moxley was unable to come in because of the tsunami, and it seemed like they were getting ready to have Juice win the red belt back, and instead they went a totally different direction and put the belt on Archer. Mm-hmm. And that felt, it's not confirmed, but it felt like that was an entirely different direction, that they ended up going in. And we've got some precedent for them doing things like that. And that's what this feels like here. And I think it was smart and exciting. And, the fact that everyone was expecting Despy and ELP, but kind of interjecting Bushi there, it caused a lot of different scenarios to kind of play out in people's heads and, speculations, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it made a lot of sense, too, having Bushi in there to kind of fight for the honor of Hiromu, give something for the LIJ fans to put their hope in, get behind, get the fans, a babyface in the match and really get behind. So, yeah, I really like that dynamic there. We'll talk about that match here in a second. But first, we got to look at Night 1, which happened on Saturday, February 27th. Opened up, we had the United Empire, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay defeating Hoshi Tanahashi and Tenkoji.
One thing, the post-match, Kojima was just lamenting how they haven't been able to get up on the United Empire all tour. And then he said, but I still got an arm.
That's right. My man, Kojima's the strongest arm. We'll talk about that strongest arm at the beginning of Night 2. But then moving on here, we can kind of talk about these two matches together because essentially they kind of flow together. We had Tangaloa defeating Yoshihashi and then Hiroki Goto defeating Tama Tonga. So essentially at the end of the Yoshihashi match, Tama Tonga came out to run the distraction, and then they beat down Yoshihashi. At the end of that match, it kind of flowed into Goto running out and Goto and Tama Tonga having their match. So thoughts on these two matches, guys?
I think this is a really creative way to have a tag team match that you call two singles matches.
Well,
I also I actually mean that, though. I thought it was cool. It was a cool way to do a couple of preview singles matches for the tag team championships. And I love that Goto has now defeated Tama Tonga 6 straight times. Tama Tonga cannot beat Goto in a singles match. At this point in their careers, I'm not sure it's ever going to happen for him. And I was actually kind of surprised, you don't really ever think of Hiroki Goto versus Tama Tonga singles matches, but there have been 5 of them before this, and Tama Tonga never wins. So it's just that's right up my alley. Weird anomalies like that just kind of pop up and you're like, oh, all right. So, but I kind of thought that was that would mean Tama Tonga was going to get over on him this time, but nope, Goto still with the win. So I don't know. It was cool. It was, if you really look at it, it was 18 minutes, 19 minutes of good wrestling, and you didn't have to watch 2 more entrances. So I like that, moving things along.
Yeah, they pulled the Paul Heyman special here with that, where an angle leads into the next match.
And we've seen that in New Japan before with other gimmicks where they've done literally this, where they have, a tag team feud going on, and then they do singles matches as the previews, and you can usually anticipate based off Gato's booking that they'll do this. One thing I thought was cool was just, if this was 2 years ago and you were looking at these two pairs, you'd say Goto and Tama Tonga are the A side of their tag teams. In a sense, they still are. They got the higher billing, but the real time to work was given to Tangaloa and Yoshihashi. And I think most fans, not all, but most fans that are watching, especially the Road 2 shows, have kind of acknowledged these are the guys who are kind of right now the workhorses of those two pairings. And that sounds so strange to say that because you wouldn't traditionally think that, but that was the case here. And I thought Tangaloa and Yoshihashi went out there, put on really good effort, really solid match. Nothing I'd say you need to go out of your way to see, But if you're like, hey, I got time to kill and want to see a good solid wrestling match, I thought these guys exceeded expectations. And then Goto and Tama Tonga, I'm never really a big fan of them, but when they're running the ropes, it's fucking awesome. And at 6 minutes 39 seconds, it didn't take too long to get to the rope running, so I like that too. Yeah,
Goto Tama Tonga didn't overstay its welcome. Nice little 6 minute 39 second match. And yeah, Tanga Loa and Yoshihashi, it was a good little match, man. I've been saying for a while, man, Tanga Loa is low-key raw. Yoshihashi's been super motivated since winning the Never Six-Man titles. And these guys are nice little back and forth here, good fight. Tanga Loa kind of bullying Yoshihashi throughout the match and screaming at him, wanting to see his fighting spirit and really trying to motivate him and telling him not to die on him and really pushing him to his level. That was kind of cool. We're seeing some, character development of Tanga Loa, seeing him talk more, kind of, get into his own, be comfortable in his own skin here in New Japan. So that's kind of cool to see, like, the growth of Tanga Loa. And so, yeah, I thought it was a good little match. I enjoyed it.
I'm not always a fan of, the melodramatic talking in matches, but I'm a big fan of the shit talking in matches.
Yeah.
And when Tanga Loa was like, I'm going to kill you. I was watching this and my girlfriend was like, oh, my God.
I'm very glad he wasn't telling him that he's the head of the table.
Yeah.
Acknowledge me, Yoshi. This can all be over.
Oh, man.
But that's the best heel in wrestling. That is one of the worst takes out there. I cannot believe that. Let's talk about...
Yeah, speaking of great heels in wrestling, let's talk about our man, the crown jewel, Chase Owens, the Texas heavyweight champion, winning here to take on Toru Yano for the provisional KOPW 2021 trophy in a YTR-style Texas strap match. Toru Yano was able to successfully defend and defeat Chase Owens.
So surprised at how violent and competently wrestled this match actually ended up being. I don't expect this sort of performance out of Yano all the time, but every once in a blue moon, you get something like this. And now were there some shenanigans? Yes, there were. But they went out there and wrestled like a Southern-style strap match with a lot of smart, cutoffs. The welts on their backs, like this was not just like playtime, tie up a guy with some tape Yano. Like they went out there and actually had a war. And given the gimmicks and the stipulations, I didn't think this was going to be that good. And, if you told me last week that they were going to go out there for 12 minutes plus, I would have been like, oh, God. But I give this a recommend. I don't know what star rating I give it, but I give it a big recommend. If you didn't watch it, if you skipped over it, you did yourself a little bit of a disservice. You need to watch this match. It was probably one of the most violent matches of the year in New Japan, as unbelievable as that is. And then I loved the drama of the finish. Just like both guys going for that fucking last thing, and then the powerbomb finish, and like this is old Yano. This is Yano reverting back to his
deathmatch Yano,
his former self. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was very surprised by this because Chase isn't exactly a serious wrestler most of the time either. He teeters on like serious guy that teeters to comedy, right? So
yeah.
But this was good. I mean, like fun to watch, surprising, right? And once I realized that they were like really gonna go after it, I was like, I'm gonna key in on this and like actually see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, like really, really had a good time with it. This is what this little title or trophy could be. I know that the Yano stuff gets people watching. A certain segment of the fan base, it really enjoys the Yano stuff, and him being highlighted is cool. But like, also, I don't know if they've turned this into this more often than not with maybe with different wrestlers. This could be a really fun, third from the top, fourth from the top type title trophy thing. Like it could be a real thing instead of it just being like Yano's comedy hour. So I'm curious to see if this is a sign of things to come or a sign of what this would be without Toru Yano involved. But ultimately, this particular Yano match was legit.
Yeah, and one thing that we had kind of complained about KOPW in the beginning is we're like kind of like the voting and the match stipulations kind of coming out of nowhere, not really being built. But I felt like for this match, they did a good job of kind of building up to the stipulation. You had Chase, he got the Texas title from Dr. Tom Pritchard, and he's coming out with the strap, and he's whipping Yano throughout the road twos. And so there was definitely the kind of build up to the strap. Or the straps involved now is it going to be a traditional strap match or the YTR strap match. So we know Yano removes the turnbuckle pads every match. And so it kind of made sense. There was kind of some build to it. So I really like that they kind of told a story into the voting and the match stipulation. Just to kind of throw out two random stipulations or had the wrestlers, quote unquote, pick what their stipulations were going to be, not really making sense into the story.
I don't know. There was a lot of choking going on in those multi-man matches. A little bit too much choking for my taste. But I hear you.
Yeah, but yeah, good matchup. Yeah, like you mentioned, Josh, yeah, really violent with the strap shots to the back and those welt marks. And yeah, definitely more, hard-hitting, a little bit more serious than I thought it was going to be.
Believe it or not, we got 2 questions surrounding this match.
Yeah. So Reddit user Viking Payne says, is the belt that Chase Owens is carrying around the real NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship, the same belt that Lou Thesz, Buddy Rogers, and the Von Erichs held? How did he get it? And is the belt going to get featured in New Japan?
Yes,
it is.
It is.
Yep.
It is. No one knows how he got it, so that's a great question.
They've been asking for the footage of the title defense, the title win, but he refuses to hand over the footage. We see on New Japan World, we got an Impact section, we got AEW section. We could have a Texas Wrestling section, but Owens doesn't want to give the footage up.
Yes, the footage.
So the history lesson on this belt, this belt actually predates the NWA. This is the Texas Heavyweight Championship. It's probably one of the oldest actually, still semi-existing, titles in American history. And, at some point, and this thing is so old, and the record, because it's in Texas and, it was like a territory and then, all over the Indies, the records are shit. Like, it's really hard to like figure out what really happened here. But, it started in the 30s. At some point, probably in the 40s or 50s, it became the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship. It ended up getting defended in World Class in the 80s. It eventually, when they split from the NWA, became the World Class Wrestling Association Texas Heavyweight Championship. It then reverted to the USWA Texas Heavyweight Championship. It went back to World Class and then back to USWA. And then, years later, I think like 97-ish, after USWA folded, it became an NWA affiliate title once again. And it kind of died a few years back when, NWA affiliate wrestling in Texas sort of just kind of vanished. That time period's kind of murky. It's prior to Billy Corgan, pretty much ending all the affiliates and making them like a corporation or whatever. So at this current time, it's not the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship. It's still just the Texas Heavyweight Championship. It has the same design. And even though you guys are playing up the gimmick, it sounds like, based on what we've been told, Tom Pritchard, who apparently just has some authority in Texas, I don't know, handed this man the title. So I think it's been defunct for since 2012.
Yeah.
And now it exists again. I doubt it will be anything that actually has any real significance or value in New Japan, but it's kind of nice to see, Chase carrying the silver strap around,
Well, that plays into our next question from Reddit user D_3_Jen. He says, I was a couple drinks into Castle Attack Night 1 when Chase Owens came out with the Texas Heavyweight Championship. Then my drunk idiot self thought, what if New Japan is trying to swerve us and the actual title unification we get is the belt and KOPW 2021? I'm putting down the bottle for a couple of days. What do you think they'll do with this title, if anything?
So I don't think this is anything more than just a story for Chase Owens to tell via, Kevin Kelly really getting behind it too. There is a cool name on the list of Texas. There's a lot of cool names on the list of Texas Heavyweight Championships, but recently Lance Hoyt in 2011.
Yeah.
Also known as Lance Archer. So he was one of the last champions before Chase Owens' big run here. So that's kind of neat. I can't imagine that'll actually come into play with anything unless Lance is making a big return to New Japan, but kind of fun to connect the dots in that way. But no, I don't think they're going to end up doing much with this. Chase is probably just going to carry this thing around for like the rest of his career and never defend it.
Right. It's something that Chase came up with to kind of help get himself over. You know, he could just kind of be a regular low-carb Bullet Club guy, but we constantly see this with Chase. He kind of does things, you know, whether it's him calling himself a Tongan or kind of doing these different things to kind of get himself over and add some character to him. So I think this whole Texas heavyweight title is like a way just to give him something new, and it's a way to kind of get him over and be a little bit different.
Here's another interesting name. 1989, The Punisher held this title. You guys know who The Punisher is?
Who's The Punisher?
Texas Red, baby. Mean Mark Callis. Punisher Dice Morgan. The Undertaker.
Well, let's move on here to the semi-main event, Castle Attack Night 1. We had the Switchblade, Jay White, of course, accompanied with Gato, finally defeating Tomohiro Ishii, 25 minutes, 42 seconds.
Got the Ishii monkey off his back, literally.
Yes. What do you think about this one, Chris?
I love this matchup. These two have fantastic chemistry. It was really good. I thought it was really good. I was watching the match, and then they went into the whole finishing sequence, which was just fantastic. And then, you know, Jay White hits a Blade Runner kind of out of nowhere after, you know, you could tell they're building and building and building and building and going and going and going, and all of a sudden, bam, Blade Runner done. So I enjoyed the hell out of this match. On this particular card, definitely my favorite match of the night. And I like the advancement for Jay White. I liked the whole Ishii story, how Ishii pinned him at New Year's Dash. Jay White goes away. I don't know that the company leveraged the Jay White might be leaving story quite as much as I would have liked them to.
Right.
But to bounce him back and have him come back and have a program with Ishii, and I thought the build up on the Road 2 shows was great too. You know, I think these guys, I don't know how often they're going to wrestle in the future and if it's going to be like a long-standing back and forth feud or if this was just the moment that Jay finally gets past it. But I'll happily take some Jay White and Ishii matches. I think they play off each other well and their styles are just different enough that it's fascinating to watch them interact.
Yeah, you mentioned that they have fantastic chemistry, but my real question is, who doesn't Ishii have great chemistry with?
Right.
It's the fucking man.
Right. And I mean, you could say similar about Jay White, not quite to the same level, but he's got, I mean, there's very few opponents that you look at Jay White and you're like, this ain't going to be good.
Yeah, but I think they're great dance partners for each other. You know, you have Jay, who's kind of at first kind of cowardly. He's powdering. He's very, you know, cerebral. He's going to target a body part and kind of manipulate the match to get in control and take advantage of certain things to get in control. And then you have Ishii, who's just kind of the no-nonsense, I'm coming straight for you head first and not backing down. And I think their styles are so opposite but mesh very well together. I really enjoy this main event. I think a lot of people are underrating, or excuse me, semi-main event, I should say. I think a lot of people are underrating this match. I think it was great. It was a great story kind of being told in this match. And then, like you mentioned, Chris, that closing sequence was just absolutely awesome.
Yes.
Just the exchanges and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then boom, Blade Runner. And that's the one thing I've always loved about the Blade Runner. And finishers like that can come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Is you can do those great kind of closing sequences and literally just boom, drop them out of nowhere. And I just loved how that finish came off.
Well, you got to have the right guy who knows how to put together the right kind of sequence to capitalize on that. Because, I mean, you look at Bray Wyatt, for instance, he does the exact same move. And, you know, it's effective and it gets over. And sometimes it comes from out of nowhere. But, I mean, I don't think his versatility with that move is anywhere near what Jay White does, just as an example, you know. So it kind of goes to show you just, you know, how smart he is in the ring, and whether it's him or someone else that's helping him put his matches together. I mean, they've done a fantastic job. He has really become, and has been for a while, the best counter wrestler in New Japan, which is an awesome story. Part of that story was also played out where, and this might be one of my favorite parts of the match, was Ishii goes up for the brainbuster and then Jay White reverses it and hits his own brainbuster.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, like I popped for that. The other part I popped for was when he was up on the turnbuckle and you talked about Ishii coming at him head first. Well, he literally came at him head first. He fucking jumped up in the air and headbutt him. Like, I was like, holy shit.
It was like Gino Gambino nailed it. He goes, oh, it's like a check in the box.
Yes.
I was like, what a line. Like, it was perfect.
Gino's one-liners are getting real. I mean, they've been good for a while, but they're getting really good.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. I thought the match they had at G1 Wild was fantastic. I thought it was a tad overrated. And I think that this match is a tad underrated. And I'm not totally sure why people aren't as behind it. Maybe it's because the sense of malaise that there is with the product or whatever. But this was, I mean, if, Ibushi Naito didn't happen this month, this would probably be my match of the month. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Jay was hitting a lot of cool moves in this match. There was a Uranagi hit that he dropped Ishii like right on his head. The Kiwi Crusher looked sick in this match as well. There was a lot of great. The Sleeper Suplex always looks great. There was a lot of Ishii getting dropped on his head in this match. Yeah, a lot of great moves, a lot of great counters, great story. Yeah, I love.
One last part about the story that I just found so interesting is like, Jay has never been able to beat this guy. He's tried every trick in the book, and suddenly in this match, he was able to come up with a game plan and piece it together to finally put this guy away. And it's been so daunting for him. But like, yeah, he did dickish things, and yeah, he did some heelish, tactics, some stalling and stuff like that. But ultimately, he beat this man clean. And sometimes you need your heels to not just get over in a schmaz fashion. You need them to beat the guys that they're going up against clean from time to time. And that's what happened here. And it lends more credibility to Jay White. And I wouldn't mind seeing these guys again down the road.
Definitely. So let's move on to the main event of Castle Attack Night 1. We had the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada defeating Evil Dick Togo, 28 minutes and 11 seconds. Kick us off, Chris.
Yeah. This happened.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. It was kind of there. It happened. It was a match. I mean, I don't think it was terrible, but it wasn't great either. And
yeah, but like, what did it mean? Like, what did we really get out of this besides really establishing that Evil can't buy a win right now? He hasn't won a singles match since October. Okada still messing around with the money clip, getting weird. Yeah, I mean, like, it was a fine match. It got Evil Dick Togo shenanigans, the whole shot. Okada trying to kind of defend the sanctity of the main event in New Japan. So like, but I wish that was more of this story. I wish Okada, like, not necessarily just fending off the interference, but battling against it and just like knowing it was going to happen and just being like, not today, we're having a match, right? Like that's where I wanted this to go, because Okada's talked about how main events have gotten so, overblown with run-ins and interference and stuff, and he's doing all these interviews and things of the sort to really talk down on Evil. So I hoped that the story was going to be, nope, we're not doing this, and Dick Togo was going to get Rainmaker 2 seconds into the match, and then Evil was going to be on his own. But really they did the cookie cutter Evil Okada match that you could picture in your mind, and Okada wins, and maybe that sets him up for a run through the New Japan Cup. But I still think Okada's kind of cold. I think this could have heated him up. A big win with a big story that comes out of it to really level set that Evil's a mid-carder. But they did not murder the Evil gimmick. So, Dick Togo will continue, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Josh mentioned last week on the show. Like, we're hoping that, like you mentioned, like this story like of Okada wanting the main events to be quote unquote IWGP level again, that he would go out there and have this kind of classic, barn burner with Evil, really give Evil a great main event and kind of establish, this is what my main event should be. And like you mentioned, that's not what we saw. We saw the kind of the typical Okada Evil match. I don't think there was as many shenanigans as the New Japan Cup final match last year. But I mean, also there still was shenanigans, but it was what it was. It's over, and I don't have much more to say about it.
I'll say this. Okada and Evil are capable of having better matches. Yes, they have. But this might be the best match that they're capable of having in these current roles that they've resigned themselves to. I thought the match, that doesn't mean I'm saying the match was very good or anything like that, but one thing I did notice, the crowd, super fucking into it. I don't entirely know why, but they were popping way more for this match than they were for Jay White and Tomohiro Ishii. They were popping for almost everything they did. So that was kind of interesting. I think that helped my judgment of the match quite a bit. Just the fact that the crowd was so reactive to everything. Even sometimes like audibly gasping, which they are not really supposed to be doing,
yeah.
But they did. And there was some like stuff that I liked on the ramp and on the outside that just kind of reminded me of like old school New Japan. This match wasn't like a classic by any means, but it also wasn't the worst match. It wasn't as bad as say like the one they had at the New Japan Cup in the finals last year.
Right.
So, or even the match they had last month. So I thought it was fine. At the end of the match, and you know, one thing I do want to say, I mean, Okada, every time the match started to get good, Okada put on the fucking honey clip and killed the momentum again. So it wasn't all evil here. But
he did end up winning with the Rainmaker.
Yes, he did. At the end of the match, he cut a promo and he talked about how he wanted to get back to the IWGP level. And I saw Emily Pratt put out a meme that said, like, in a narration voice, he would not get back to IWGP level. Because that shit is gone.
Little did he know.
Little did he know.
You guys something, Chris?
I wanted to, and then I lost it, and it's just I just don't have much more to give on this one. I think this match would have been perceived so much differently outside of the main event.
Oh, possibly.
Yes, yeah. I wish they would have flopped them.
But the thing is, like, it's Okada, so they probably and Evil, they probably felt obligated.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and crowds, and myself included, I hate Evil. Like, I want that dude to lose. And like, that is a testament to the work New Japan has done to get him over as someone that you want to see fail. But I want to see him fail clean.
Yeah.
I think that might be why, maybe that's part of it, is why the crowd was reacting, because it's so believable that Okada can beat him, and he's kind of been a thorn in his side for, you know, this past year in various different degrees, and like this was his comeuppance, and you know, that is kind of an old school sort of mindset, but I think for this crowd it probably worked because everything Okada did they reacted to. I think they wanted to see Evil lose, and then when he did, they went home happy. So all in all, it's not this low-key, this is a really good card on the 27th. Top to bottom. I mean, I have no complaints.
Well, let's talk about the 28th now. Night 2 of Castle Attack opened up with Tenkoji defeating the United Empire. My man, Satoshi Kojima, leader of the Bread Club, with the strongest arm, just knocked off Jeff Cobb's head, got the 1-2-3 for the team. Big upset win there.
I was a little surprised by this because they've been building up Jeff Cobb, having him win almost exclusively every match for the United Empire all throughout the tour, and then suddenly he eats a clean pinfall to Kojima. And I was like, that's just so backwards. Why are they doing that? But then seeing that they're slotted first round in the New Japan Cup against one another, it makes sense. So I'm anytime like Tenkoji rides high, like I'm for it. I don't care.
Yeah, as soon as you got the win, I was like, all right, they're probably facing off in New Japan Cup.
Yeah, and this match was good. Like the United Empire versus Tenkoji, like it's been a really fun feud, right? And it's going to have to end here soon, probably after these New Japan Cup matches, because Ospreay's got Tenzan too. So like they're still paired up in the first round. But so I mean, I tweeted this during the show or whenever I watched it. Yeah, I watched the show live. Satoshi Kojima is the first person to pin Jeff Cobb in a New Japan ring since Will Ospreay pinned Jeff Cobb on February 24th, 2019. Oh, sorry, in a New Japan tag team match. Obviously, he's lost some singles.
I was like, he lost some stuff in the G1.
No, but he hasn't lost a tag match. He hasn't been pinned in a tag match since when he was on an Honor Rising tour.
Wow.
Tagging with Dalton Castle. So, I mean, it's been a while, and Cobb's been the and he's done full World Tag League tours. Like, he's been very protected in that way. And he was on a string coming into these 2 nights where he had 9 straight pinfall wins for the United Empire. Like, he was the guy in the finish. So that's why it was like built up Cobb to be this kind of monster finisher. And Kojima just knocked his head off. It was awesome.
One other aspect, we'd be remiss if we forgot to mention this. So, Tenzan lost the Mongolian chops. He's not allowed to use them. We asked earlier, well, what happens if he uses them? What's going to happen? And we were like, well, I don't know, something. Well, apparently nothing, because this man started using them in this match. And, they were goading him. They were taunting him, and he just got fed up. He had enough. Start unleashing the chops, and I think that was a big part of why they got the win here too.
Yeah, so there was no DQ call, no punishment for using the Mongolian chops.
Sugabayashi's not going to give him a fine.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen here. I think the IWGP needs to rule on this shit. This is not right. You need to be a man of honor and stick by your word.
They're too busy merging titles right now to worry about Tenzan's chops.
This would never happen if the Never committee was overseeing this match, sanctioning it.
And one other story note in this match, and kind of another reason why Cobb and Ospreay lost, a story that they told in this match was that Cobb and Ospreay don't have great chemistry as a team.
But that's not what Dave Meltzer said. He said that if they teamed together, they'd be like the best tag team in wrestling.
Well, Uncle Dave was wrong here, and Cobb and Ospreay had some issues, chemistry issues here, some communication issues. They were bumping into each other and weren't really working as a well-oiled unit like we've seen, let's say, Cobb and Ocon or Ospreay and Ocon. But this Cobb-Ospreay team just not used to working together.
That's old country beef.
Yeah, and so that kind of was a downfall into them losing as well. So then moving on, we had a Chaos versus Bullet Club matchup here, kind of tying up the loose ends from night 1. We had Okada, Ishii, and Toru Yano defeating the Bullet Club team of Chase, Owens, Evil, and Jay White.
After that,
yeah, nothing to really talk about there.
It was a preview match. Let's move on.
Yeah. Then we had the first.
It was a review match.
Yeah.
Let's just run it back in a trio. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Just thought it was funny.
IWGP Tag Team Heavyweight title match as the Gorillas of Destiny defended their title successfully against the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. 15 minutes, 46 seconds.
Yeah, good tactile defense here. Really good matchup. And again, for the most part, this match was wrestled pretty clean until the finish where we got the kendo stick shot from Master Hito Jado, which was allowed Tama Tonga to hit the gun stun there and get the pinfall for GOD. But I thought throughout the match, it was really good. It was really, really hard hitting. They told a good story, and there was minimal shenanigans.
I think Goto and Yoshihashi might be my favorite tag team in New Japan in terms of like just in ring right now. Like until like Dangerous Tekkers come back, because every time they go out there, like they put on bangers, and I thought this was really good.
I'm still waiting for a good run from Goto and Ishii.
We've been.
I know.
We all want it.
I know. They got to do it, but how do you get the belts off of them? Yeah, this was a really good tag match. I mean, good pace, kept the pace high. Good story, minimal shenanigans. Just the one kendo stick shot, and that's pretty normal, right? Just one quick distraction for GOD. But yeah, I mean. Good, great tag team match. I at no point did I really see Goto and Yoshihashi winning this thing, no. But they did a good job building them up to look like they could.
Yeah, they got a lot of heat on Yoshihashi, and there was the powerbomb spot where from Tangaloa, it looked like Yoshihashi was like knocked out, and they were potentially teasing stopping the match, and so. That kind of built the heat there, and it built to the finish with Goto and Tama Tonga, which was the singles match in the previous night, and Goto got the win. So you're thinking, oh, well, Goto, pinned this guy night 1. Goto could pin him again, which led to Tama Tonga actually getting the win back and pinning Goto.
And what I liked about it is that finish all four men were in the ring, and it was kind of, just sort of like in the middle of like a schmaz. It didn't necessarily at that point feel like they were telegraphing like, here comes the finish, like they do in a lot of their tag matches. It was mid-sequence, and then suddenly, boom, kendo stick, boom, gun stun. And you're like, oh shit, it's over. Like that came out of nowhere. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They had a stat. Wasn't this like their, like, I don't know, 90-second like win, or I don't know what the fuck it was.
For GOD?
Yeah,
for GOD.
Something for GOD.
It's their 29th IWGP Tag Team Championship match. So they've been in like 11%, if you're doing a little rounding, 11% of all-time IWGP Tag Team Championship matches.
And I said 90-second. I got the right numbers. I just put them in. Something like that. That's 29 sounds, more accurate.
Yeah, Yoshi and Goto too. They've formed great chemistry, and there's a lot of cool double team movers. They've kind of created these like double team combos based off the GTR, like the GYW and the GYR. And so there's a lot of cool double teams, and that was kind of talked about on commentary how at first there weren't a lot of double team moves, but now they have a lot of different double team tandems and combos and these kind of combo finishers. So good little story there.
Tag company, yeah, baby. Dun Diesel asked us, has Tangaloa always been this badass? He's had so much intensity lately that he's miles above Tama for me. When he's screaming at Yoshihashi to get up, don't you die on me, I literally got goosebumps. Give me Tangaloa singles run, please.
Being a son of Haku, you kind of have to be
a badass. Have to.
Right. But we're seeing him, grow and get better. This was no Camacho here. This was Tangaloa, and like we mentioned, he's doing the insecurities, he's doing these power moves, he's firing up, he's talking the shit during the match. And so, like I mentioned earlier, he's just kind of coming into his own right now.
I hate to be those guys, but like if you've been listening to this podcast, I think we've been on the Tama train or Tangaloa train since like probably G1 2018 when he went on that long run of winning all the tag matches on the undercard. We're like, and that's when he like debuted Ape Shit. We're like, Tangaloa fucking rocks. So, just saying.
He looks good. Singles run, I don't know. He's not in the New Japan Cup. Sounds like he's got something else he's got to do, maybe. But
like focus on his tag team titles.
Like continue focusing on the tag team titles. So, but yeah, he looks awesome. I always like giving the guys who've been in tag teams for a long time, like splitting them out and giving them a good singles run. Just give it a shot, right? You never know what you got until you try it. So would have liked to see Tangaloa appear in the New Japan Cup or just in more singles matches in general in Japan. I think there's a chance he's going to end up with some singles matches on Strong, and that's just such a different environment where the trash talk doesn't land quite as well, right? Because you don't have a crowd to react. So but yeah, he looks good, and he looks like ripped. So he's in like very good peak physical condition.
I have another question here from our user Dom Homie 101. So are we heading towards a confrontation between IWGP Tag Heavyweight Champs GOD, AEW Tag Champs Young Bucks, and Impact World Tag Team Champions Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson in the near future?
I saw something about them, like, I don't know, tweeting each other, but I didn't really keep up with it. So I don't really know.
I mean, with the doors opening, it's a possibility.
I could only speculate that there are 2 empty slots in the New Japan Cup that probably emptied really quickly. So that's all I can speculate on.
Well, let's move on.
We've got 3 matches. We're 20 minutes over our time, so we need to keep these ones short so we can get into this New Japan Cup stuff, even though I know that this is the good stuff here.
Yeah, so our final 3 title matches. So first we had the never openweight title match. Hoshi Tanahashi defeats the Great Okan, defends the title, 18 minutes, 44 seconds. Thought this was a great matchup here. I know there's a lot of people who are hating on Great Okan, but I thought he looked great in this match. He was a monster, was overpowering Tanahashi. A lot of great power moves, great game plan, but in the end, he just got outsmarted by the ace with that quick crucifix pin.
I love this. I thought Okan looked great. I think Tanahashi looked great. I think everyone on the planet thought Okan was going to take the title here. And,
Yes.
I kind of love the swerve. And I love that Tanahashi is Okan's like arch nemesis. Like he's going to be his big boss at the end of something, right? At some point down the line, but it's not yet. Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that the booking of Great Okan's interesting. Great Okan, I think this was his best physically wrestled singles match since coming back. I enjoyed it. Thought it was good.
Yeah. I'll try not to repeat the things you guys said. You guys said some great stuff there. Some of the aspects of this match I liked. We've said in the past, you don't hook with a hooker and you don't drag and screw with a drag and screwer. And he tried to focus on Tanahashi's leg. And he's like, fuck that. I'm taking your leg out. Loved that aspect of it. Loved that he was trying to turn Tsuji, who is a representative
That's right, yeah.
of what he used to be to Tanahashi. It's almost like fucking Star Wars. He's trying to turn the young Padawan against the Jedi to the dark side. Although I didn't like that Tsuji balled up his fist and thought about it.
He was working it, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
He had to lead Okan into a false, setting that he actually was thinking about turning. So when the chair spot came, Okan would actually think that Tsuji would hit him with the chair.
Well, I got work too, so I'm a fucking mark. And then, Tanahashi rolling this guy up, with the crucifix. That was just, he used his veteran wiles to, overcome his overconfidence and his aggressiveness, which is a great story. And I'm looking forward to see what happens next. And again, I was shocked. I thought, based on the fact that Okan had already lost the big match to him before, he's going to get the win back here. So, that's the booking. But I think with the fact that we're having less titles in New Japan and we're elevating some of these mid-cards, that makes more sense of why they're keeping Tanahashi on the title as opposed to switching it. Now, if you saw this title at Never Level, makes all the sense, or the old Never level, makes sense to put it on Okan. But if you're talking about like the number 2 title in the company, makes sense to keep it on Tanahashi.
Right, and we had a question here from EMJ Does PR. It says Tanahashi said he's going to elevate the Never title. What slate of opponents does he need to face in order to do so?
I think maybe we could each give one. Can you guys think of one guy you'd like to see him fight to elevate this belt?
Jay White.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. I know these guys have faced before. He's faced before, but Suzuki. I mean, he's the face of Never, but it's a whole different thing if it's Tanahashi and Suzuki fighting over that Never belt.
I think they'd have to get his title off of him, but Jon Moxley.
Yeah, that could be good.
Yep.
So moving on to the semi-main event, we had the triple threat match for the vacant IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. El Desperado defeats Bushi and ELP 23 minutes and 12 seconds to become the new Junior Heavyweight champ. He is now Despy 2 belts as he is the king of the junior division. He's one half of the junior tag champs and the now new IWGP Junior Heavyweight champion.
I really enjoyed this match. I kind of was told ahead of time that they went away from all of the tropes that you see with junior matches or with triple threats, and they kept the action in the ring the whole time. That was not an accurate narrative. There's plenty of times where specifically Bushi as well as Desperado were left laying on the outside. But I thought this match had incredible high spots. I thought it had really good storytelling. I loved the mask ripping and how that plays off of, it's almost like a desecration of how many New Japan fans have like sort of elevated in their minds the moment when he took his mask off against Hiromu, and now Hiromu's gone. So and instead, like, this man's just fucking ripping that mask and, putting it on himself and just making a mockery of everything that stands for. And then the closing sequence, all the false finishes was very, very good. I'm not quite as high on this match as other people. I thought it had a wonky pacing, but that's kind of how most triple threats are. I thought it was a little slower. I thought the star of the match was ELP, and I was shocked that he didn't win because I thought that's where they were going. And I was more than elated to see Desperado finally, after all these years, win the big one, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, tropey triple threat matches turn me off. Not usually into them. They did do the whole thing where like one guy would disappear for a little while, then kind of come back and then fight somebody else and like kind of rotate through. But they kept the action going, right? It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of time where like everyone's down on the mat selling and one guy comes to life first or whatever. Like it was good. And I think what I liked most about it was that this was closer to kind of a classic junior heavyweight style, as opposed to
I noticed
the Hiromu show main event from a couple of weeks ago, which was like really teetering into main event style for New Japan, main event house style. So this was a little bit, I mean, it was a lot closer, even though it was a triple threat. So it's a little unorthodox, but a lot closer to true kind of junior heavyweight New Japan stuff.
It kind of even reminded me of some of the older, like 90s New Japan style matches.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one. There was like a 4-way junior title match that opened up Wrestle Kingdom a couple years ago with like Ospreay, Hiromu, I think Kushida.
And Skrull.
Yeah. And so it reminded me of that kind of pacing. And yeah, I really enjoyed this match. Like you guys mentioned, a lot of great spots. I love the cradle pile driver on the ramp to kind of take Desperado out. I thought he was going to come back without the mask and kind of be like he was in the Hiromu match and just come out and just kill them with the face paint on.
And I mean, that was a gotch. He used his master's move on him.
Right. And so, yeah, I like that kind of storytelling there, kind of playing back to the Hiromu match. And then once again, too, we see Desperado kind of outsmarting ELP with the sudden death in the tag title match. He was able to use it to knock out Ishimori. And then here, after ELP, he hit the sudden death on Bushi when he was going for the MX. And then Despy was kind of able to capitalize, get out of the way of sudden death, and hit 2 Pinche Locos to kind of get the exclamation point pin there and get the win.
Yeah, I loved that he didn't leave it up to fate. He took fate into his own hands. And also, I liked that, once again, ELP tried to use the One-Winged Angel after using various other Bullet Club leader moves, and it was his undoing again. So there's a continuity there, too.
Yeah. Some questions here. First from our user WRPLA101. Like most probably did, I suspected ELP would take the junior title in the 3-way, but the outcome was a nice surprise. Can they use this as a platform to develop something worthwhile in the junior division whilst Hiromu is gone beyond the initial surprise of Despy winning the belt? Thoughts on how they might proceed with him as champion? Is it just a case of him getting a run to eventually drop it to Hiromu?
I don't know if it's for him to drop it to Hiromu eventually. I think Hiromu's still got junior title runs in his future. But that being the case, I mean, this is them doing fun, new, exciting things to elevate the division. And, once New Japan Cup's up, presumably we're moving into Super Junior territory. So this is kind of setting the stage for what's going to come when we get Super Juniors.
Right.
Yeah, and I think he's already elevated. I mean, this whole couple of days, this whole weekend was about him in regards to the junior division. So eventually drop it to Hiromu, maybe that'd be they had a hell of a match in the Best of Super Juniors finals. There's a hell of a story to tell there. But in regards to Best of Super Juniors, like you got to wonder what guys like Dragon Lee are up to and who they can get in the country. Like the junior division is not like, it's not just like these 3 guys or anything. Like there's a lot of guys that the company is probably working on getting access to so that they can do some pretty hefty storytelling as the spring and summer rolls along. By the end of it, maybe we miss Hiromu and we're ready to see him back, but I'm not sure where this belt was going with Hiromu holding it.
We said the same thing the last few weeks.
And it's interesting you mentioned Dragon Lee. I know I saw him tweet out a picture of Desperado and him, and they were kind of teasing like a mass versus mass match back in the day. And there was definitely some heated history there between Despy and Dragon Lee, and Dragon Lee just winning the. He's now one half of the Ring of Honor tag champ, so he's also a double champ in Ring of Honor. So hopefully he can come over for Best of Super Juniors, and we can kind of re-spark this rivalry between Despy and Dragon Lee.
Dom Homie 101 asked, New Japan, where does New Japan take this junior division with Despy as champ? I think we kind of addressed that.
Yeah.
And then he asked, do you guys think the new world title will lead to more juniors fighting for it? It is a heavyweight belt, so no, I don't think juniors are going to be challenging for that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the World Heavyweight Championship.
Last question here from EMJ What do you think of the decision to belt up El Desperado? Were you surprised they didn't go with ELP?
Very surprised. Very excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna say same. I mean, surprised because he was not involved in this whole thing at all. There was they had to kind of shoehorn him into it, but it made a ton of sense in the end. And he's great. He's the guy right now. I mean, and I don't know if that's just the circles that I run in that people really like him, or if that's pretty widespread. But, with Suzuki-gun kind of living in the middle of the kind of face heel dynamic, it actually gives you a lot that you can do with a tweener. Like, you can put him in the ring with anyone, right? And it's going to be, you're going to be able to build heat, right? So even guys like super babyface style, like Robbie Eagles and things of the sort, right? Like, so I think there's a lot they can do with this division. I think people are generally down on the division because they put Hiromu on such a high pedestal, but I mean, they had a good run without Hiromu, good enough run, even though you had guys like, Will Ospreay like carrying the division and stuff, but someone's got to carry it, and someone's got to carry it when Hiromu's not around anyway.
Well, the thing is, it would have been fine, except for the guys they invested into, they did it so they could move them up. So when Hiromu came back, they were sort of depleted. So that's the only real thing there.
Yeah. I was initially surprised that ELP didn't win, but once you think about the anniversary show coming right up and what makes sense as a main event in Budokan Hall, ELP versus Ibushi doesn't really quite make as much sense. I think, Ibushi versus Hiromu in that Budokan Hall would have made sense. And so going with Ibushi and Desperado, I think makes a ton more sense there with his popularity and the way fans have been getting behind him. And so elevating him to a top level to face Ibushi makes a ton of sense for that anniversary show.
Nice. So let's move on to the main event, the IWGP Intercontinental title match. Kota Ibushi defends and defeats Tetsuya Naito at 27 minutes and 50 seconds. I'd like to start. One thing I love about this match, very completely different from any match that we've ever seen between these two. We've seen many, many matches. And what I love about it is very often my favorite matches, and anytime I can break a match down on this show without having to take any notes, I can literally just watch the match and recall, like, literally frame for frame what happened. That's a good match, especially when I'm this excited about it. And I can tell you what the breakdown of this match was. They came out there, they chain wrestled, they tried to grapple, showcase who was the better, more dominant guy. Once that didn't work, Naito went to work on the leg, and he worked that leg. It's maybe one of the best leg working sequences I've seen, or limb working. Like, the last time I saw someone work a limb this effectively was like Ibushi and Jay White from the G1 final a couple years ago, which that reminds me of this in many ways. And he did that for almost the entirety of the match. Like, Ibushi's just selling, and he's just getting his ass kicked, and they're just hitting each other, but he's getting almost no offense. Maybe a drop kick here or there. And then finally, with 6 minutes left to go, he just starts reversing shit. And Naito, it's almost like Naito punched himself out, like in a boxing match. Like he just clobbered him. And then, and about halfway through the leg work, he switched from the leg to the neck to get him ready for the Destino. So he was going like body, head, body. And he was going back and forth and trying to get this guy's wheels off and then take his neck out. And then suddenly, at the end of the match, 6 minutes left, Ibushi just starts hitting everything. He hits him with the fucking Kamigoye, or the Kinshasa, or whatever it's called. He hits him with the German from the middle rope. He hits him with all of his big moves. And then, Naito starts hitting him with his big moves. And then they go to the final sequence where, like, he hits him with Destino. It's not enough. Ibushi is able to outpower him, hits him with 3 fucking Kamigoyes, one's reversed, the other 2, and puts him down in what I thought was like a classic. I went 4.5 on this. I really, say what you will about the story, about the setup and the logic. We don't need to get into all that because we discussed it last week, but this match in and of itself, in a vacuum, awesome.
I mean, what's not awesome about these guys getting in the ring, right? Like, I can't say it any better than that. That was as best as anyone can describe how great this particular chapter in their saga is. What I'll say is they've got at least 4 more matches in them, because they've got to match Tanahashi and Okada as their classic rivalry. And Tanahashi and Okada had I think it's 14 matches so far. So let's give me 4 more, and whatever, throw them all on this year. I don't care. Keep running it back. I'll watch these guys wrestle all day. It was awesome. And I love that Ibushi won. Another surprise retention of a title, right? Because everyone's like, oh, I guess they're splitting them up. Cool. Nope. hold them together. Do something totally wacky afterwards.
Yeah, and Josh, you did an excellent job kind of summing up the highlights of this match, and I echo everything you said. It was a great matchup. I also went 4.5 on it. There was a lot of, you mentioned there was a lot of limb works, but there was also a lot of kind of great head drop spots that we're used to with these guys. The diamond dust off the top rope. The Gloria.
The Gloria, he dropped him on his head. They fucked up on that one because he was hurt.
The super German, this Sorrow kind of German, stalling German into the ring. So yeah, a ton of great spots here. Great psychology. A great next chapter in the feud. Really loved it. Then post-match, we had Desperado coming out to, lay the challenge down for the anniversary show. Traditionally, we do get the junior champion versus the heavyweight champion. So he laid the challenge out for the double titles. And we had a question here before we kind of talk about the future of the double titles from Reddit user Huday42. Says, since Naito lost and seems unlikely to win the belt back this year, what would you do with him for the rest of 2021? Who makes sense to feud with him, and how would you go about making a good storyline that doesn't revolve around the belt?
Well, traditionally, when I moved Naito out of the IWGP picture, I would move him into the Intercontinental title rotation. But we don't have that anymore, so I'm not totally sure. One thing, someone asked who Tanahashi should be wrestling. They had a pretty awesome G1 match last year. Maybe him and Tanahashi for the Never title. Maybe there's a tag title situation that you could do with Naito
and Shingo.
Maybe, or Sonata. I don't know, somebody, whoever. But I mean, I don't think he's really been in the title picture for years and years. So,
Honma.
Yeah, we never got the...
Listen, we didn't get it. I thought that was going to be his first round New Japan Cup match.
We didn't get Tsuji either.
Hey, it's a slow build. They're building. They're waiting for the right show for the Honma match, okay?
Destruction.
we didn't get Doki and... what's his name?
Jado.
Jado either.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they doing?
What are we doing?
Wait, best Super Juniors for that.
I don't know what to do with Naito. I mean, at this point, he's kind of... I think the Ibushi attached to the title story is played out at this point. They've run it back twice now, and he's lost both of them, which is shocking. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see, right? Because he's a big player and he's a big guy. They're all fighting for a new title now, though, something that they've never accomplished. So curious to see how high that gets elevated, I guess, away from the rest of the titles, right? Is the Never going to live close to that title, or is it really that's going to be the pinnacle, right? How protected is that going to be, and is Naito involved in building up that title as we get that established?
That's a good point. You could potentially still book the Never title as the mid-card slot and then reserve that semi-main event slot without a title, but still just have guys like Naito and Sonata and whoever, kind of rotating it in that, atmosphere, whatever the word is.
Yeah. I think a good kind of next step for him would be maybe do like a LIJ versus Empire feud. Empire's a new stable. We haven't really seen a Naito Ospreay singles match. And so I think there's some interesting stuff you can do with LIJ feuding against Empire. You could run back Cobb and Shingo. You can get Okan mixed up with Shingo and Sonata and Naito. So there's some interesting story elements you could do with a, LIJ Empire with, Ospreay and Naito kind of leading that feud there.
I think Ospreay and Naito is real big, though.
They're protecting that. They haven't done it.
Big matchup.
That's like Tokyo Dome worthy.
Yeah.
Or like at G1 least final. Dominion. Yeah. G1 final, Dominion, like something real big. Yeah.
So let's get into the big discussion that we got to keep on the short side.
Yes. Speaking of real big, we learned about the future of the double titles, and they are being unified. New Japan, they announced that they're unifying the IWGP and IWGP Intercontinental Championships into a new title. This came from Tokyo Sports, and it quotes NJPW Chairman Tsukabayashi, and he states the heavyweight and IC titles will be unified as the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, a new title, and that the current double champ Kota Ibushi will be recognized as the first IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. I think we have some questions that can kind of help us talk through this, so we're not repeating anything and having to repeat through the question. So first from Rambo and Slam Pig, how do you guys feel about the end of the title lineage for both of the heavyweight and IC titles? What will it take to make the new belt feel like a worthy successor? Does Okada get a 2+ year run with a strap to elevate it to the next level?
I think, it might not be a bad idea to run through these questions and then we can each give our thoughts honestly.
Let's run through them all?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so the second question, he says, with the IC belt going away, it seems that both the Never and US titles will need to be elevated in significance so that one can occupy the upper mid-card slot. Which do you think it will be? Is Tanahashi as Never champ the start of that process? Then Ready User Viking Pain asks, can someone clear this up for me? Is the new world title going to have lineage of the heavyweight title like how the WWE Undisputed title was a continuation of the WWE title? Or is this belt something completely new? Also, does merging the history of the IC title into the heavyweight title mean that guys like Goto, Suzuki, Elgin, and MVP are considered former heavyweight champions? Or if the new belt is completely new title with a new lineage, then how does this retiring the two belts honoring the legacy of Nakamura and Hashimoto, the two guys Ibushi wants to honor the most with the unification? Dom Homie 101 asks, is it me or am I the only one that is indifferent with retirement of the IWGP IC title? I know people seem angry about the end of the IWGP IC title, but I feel like the title seems like it doesn't have a place in the company anymore when you have two top stars in Tanahashi as a Never champ and Moxley as a US champ. What if this whole retirement of the IWGP heavyweight title is just a storyline for Ibushi, and we may see the return of the title after Ibushi drops the title? And then Muzza asked, with the now soon-to-be established IWGP World Heavyweight title having its own lineage, who is to blame for the ending of the IWGP Heavyweight title lineage? Either way, I blame Evil.
That's good. I blame Evil too. So that gives us a lot to kind of unpack there that we can each discuss. Who wants to go first?
Well, Chris is a guest. Let's let him go first.
I don't have a ton of deep-seated feelings about this whole thing, right?
Boo.
So, yeah, I know. I'm not a takes guy. I'm sorry. But here's what I'll say. I love history. I love the path of the title, right? So, and it gives me a lot to do with the work that I do with New Japan, for that matter. It gives me an avenue, right, to make things a little more interesting. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, the IWGP World Heavyweight title is still the IWGP World Heavyweight title.
Right.
It's the big title. So it's not like we're removing the stakes of why people fight in New Japan, right? The pinnacle of the industry, the pinnacle of New Japan right now still exists. To be honest, it's going to be hard to separate and detach the lineage of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship from this IWGP World Heavyweight title. They can start the lineage wherever they want, but if you're going to look back at the history of the top title in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you're going to use the IWGP Heavyweight title that goes back to, the late 80s, and you're going to see the lineage of who the top wrestler in New Japan was for that time period, right? So I get it. People are gonna be upset. People don't like change, right? And I understand that. And there is a part of me that's like, well, why not just attach the at least the heavyweight lineage to this new belt? And to be perfectly honest, I guess maybe the Intercontinental, because clearly in New Japan they've seen and for a very long time the Intercontinental was kind of title 1B, right? I mean, right. headline to Tokyo Dome, right. over the heavyweight championship. People are really attached to that title. It's had great meaning and great story purpose, and it's elevated to a very high level for what is, I guess, also kind of seen as the secondary belt. But I didn't see it as a secondary belt. I did see it as 1B for a very long time, and it had kind of reduced in its lore by being attached to the heavyweight championship. So, and I don't know. I didn't know how they were going to separate it. I thought this avenue with Naito was a fine way to do it if they wanted to do it, but I'm not super opposed to unification. I forget who asked the question, but I don't want to say I'm indifferent because I think the title has such a big place in the growth of New Japan, this huge growth phase that they've had since 2011, 2012. And, you can kind of look at that. And I think long term, you're going to look at that era as the Intercontinental title era. And now that's gone. And we are moving into a new era signified by not only just a new physical belt, but a new lineage of the title. And, they're going to have to work to build the, like I questioned, like how far away from the other titles is this going to be? Like how protected is the booking and the opportunities towards this title going to be? And what I think is really interesting is that really like the big four New Japan guys from really this era, they all kind of have a thing, right? Okada's the longest reign and the most reigning days. Tanahashi has the most reigns. Tetsuya Naito was the first double champion, and now Ibushi's the first world heavyweight champion. So they all kind of get something to hang their hat on. And honestly, it gives those other three guys something new to do. Because like Okada winning the title was going to be like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. And that's not exciting. But now like I hope it re-energizes some of these top guys. And I hope they potentially treat it a little bit differently where maybe you don't have to be so elevated to get an opportunity, even if you don't win your first opportunity.
Well, I'm glad you're on the show, Chris, because some of those points that you bring up are very valid and they're kind of the other side of the coin. And it actually helps bring a little bit of perspective. You said you're not the take guy, but those are some pretty good takes. That being said, there are some problems I have with this. So, one thing that you mentioned, and I do want to kind of dispute a little bit. You mentioned that when people look back, they're going to look back at the old lineages and they're always going to, connect, the various titles. And they may because, the IWGP title's been so revered for so many years and they almost share the same name. But in actuality, a lot of people don't know this. There have been at least 8 different world titles in New Japan, probably 3 or 4 that are actually prominently known. Most people don't look at those lineages. No one knows who the NWF champion was other than like Inoki. No one knows who the real world champion was, Carl Gotch's belt. Like they don't really pay attention to that stuff. It's kind of like, what's the main belt? I guess my problem with why would you do this is like, you brought up a great point. Yes, by merging these 2 titles for the past year, it did kind of slightly diminish the IC title. But then why do it in the first place? If you had a 1A and a 1B belt, what is the point? I mean, aside from the whole history aspect of it and the lore, if you will, that we all as wrestling fans appreciate, what is the actual purpose of the titles? It's trophies that draw, that add prestige and stakes and, generate business. And they generated a lot of fucking business with these 2 belts. How do we know they're going to continue to draw as much business with the 1 belt and not the 2? You know what I mean? There is an argument that they had too many belts. If you were going to get rid of a belt, this wasn't the belt to get rid of, not the one that had this much investment and this much marketability. It literally could have been the Never or the US, but not the white belt. That doesn't fucking make sense. You've headlined Tokyo Domes with this shit. And the thing I'm not a big fan of is getting rid of the lineages and specifically the IWGPs is because, we had a Parade of Champions video. What's it going to be now? Is it just going to be Ibushi, like, flipping off of buildings and like setting fireworks off on himself and shit? Like, it doesn't fucking make sense.
Please, somebody edit a video of like the Ibushi version of the champion roll call.
When it comes to like, the last time that a title was as respected or revered in wrestling, probably since 91, the 2 most revered were the WWF title and this title. Prior to that, it was the NWA title. And when Ric Flair left WCW in 1991, and he left with both the WCW and the NWA title, that NWA title never fucking recovered. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. In fact, I'm very optimistic about some of the things you said there, Chris. I hope that based on the fact that this is still, it's still New Japan. They still have, they have stories to tell. It does open up new stakes for people and things like that. That's really great. But I hope that they are able to continue to draw allure and respect from the traditional Japanese audience who's looking at, there was a video online that showcased that they're going to be merging these titles, and it had and it was the Japanese video. It had 2,000 or 3,000 downvotes. And that is a small sample size. It's not the whole fandom, but those are probably the diehards who are, watching the video on YouTube and they're like, what the fuck? So I know that there's a lot of people in the States that are, kind of down on this, and I'm sure there probably is over there. And I hope this doesn't ruin the legacy that's been established by the IWGP title. I don't really realistically think in kayfabe this honors the lineage, like I mentioned it last week when they did the PWF and the United National and the international titles. Those had all three kind of been played out at that point, and you didn't know what the world title was, So when they did merge them, it actually was the sum greater of themselves, because not any single one of them was really the world title. That's not what we have here. We had the actual world title in Japan, and now they've unified it and gotten rid of the legacy. And I don't know that it's as alluring without that, legacy behind it. Maybe if they put on, good enough stories and good enough matches and they book it properly, people will come around to see it, the same, and they'll see it as the spiritual, successor. But I don't know. There's a part of me that's like the traditionalist. I hate this. It makes me sad. It really, really makes me sad.
Yeah, both of you guys make a lot of great points, and I'll just throw in my 2 cents here real quickly. I have no problem with title unifications. And I know the IC title does have a great history in the company and did help elevate a lot of people. But with the situation, I don't mind that they decide to just go ahead and unify both titles. Because clearly they didn't have a different plan of them being defended separately or splitting them up. So I have no problem with the unification. I do have a problem, like Josh, with the lineages disappearing. I know technically, I guess it is quote unquote the same title. It's still the top title. But I just think it's kind of cool to have that, you look at that title and see the history that it dates back to and the names and just a great match associated with the IWGP heavyweight title. But it's still going to be the main belt. There's still, like you mentioned, Chris, there's still new stories. There's new stories to tell now with this title. And as far as, continuing it to make it, feel worthy as a successor to the IWGP title, I think we need some great title defenses like we saw with the IWGP title. It's going to be on Kota Ibushi to have some bangers with this heavyweight title. The stories they tell. Also, Okada is the ace of the company. He's been without the title for a while now. I do think he'll get it back, and they will make a big deal once Okada does win the World Heavyweight title. And I think he'll have a nice little run. He'll have some classic matches. So I think it's just they just got to book it the same way they booked the IWGP that they've been doing. Great matches, great stories on the biggest stage. I think they have the roster and the talent to make this title feel important. With the IC title gone, it does open up the doors for the Never and US titles to be elevated. I think in a post COVID world when traveling is allowed, I think we will see a Jon Moxley over there more, and Mox can be a guy that's facing guys like a Naito, or for example for the US title, that Never title, Tanahashi. He can have some big matches. So I think we're getting to a point now. We've already seen the Never title main event, some big shows. I think we're getting to a point now where the Never and US titles can be elevated to kind of be those 1B titles and headline and main event some bigger shows. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the titles and how everything's handled going forward.
As crazy as it sounds, this is the subject where I could spend all night. We could have done a whole podcast on me just talking about this, but we'll just go in circles. So I hope that a lot of the things that you said here, Chris, pan out that way, and I'm wrong. I hope so.
I mean, I hope I'm right just because that's what I hope for, right? Like I hope that the top title still remains literally the top title in the industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's that title that, like, unless you've held that IWGP Heavyweight Championship right now, like you hadn't achieved everything that you could possibly achieve, especially since we've seen the the WWE titles just like fall to pieces and be completely meaningless, right? So and WCW's gone, and I guess you still got NWA, like 10 pounds of gold, like that still has some allure, but it doesn't have quite the platform, right? So this is the title, right? And this is a big deal in the industry too. So I'm hopeful, I'm confident, and I am a proponent of fewer titles in general. So if this is a way to make them all feel a little more special, like I'm here for it. And like I said, like I think the lineage is going to live whether or not it's like officially recognized or not. This title was a big deal in the industry for 35 years. Not quite the same as, the NWF title was around for quite a while, but it had kind of reduced its stature for a little while there, or for quite a while before it got merged. So, again, I could go on and on, but
one thing that's good that we've seen recently, AEW title, highly respected, big prize because of what it represents. It's the pinnacle of that company, and it's only been around for a short period of time. This isn't quite the same scenario, but I mean, that's one optimistic take. We've seen how a title can be established in a very short period of time with good matches, good booking, good characters. So hopefully we get more of that here.
Right. I mean, and like you mentioned, Josh, we're only seeing samplings of fans' opinions, the vocal fan base online. We don't know what the whole fan base thinks. I mean, there could be a portion of the fans that see this as super prestigious. You have these two titles that have become one and unified in this new, bigger prize. Blah. And in some people's eyes, it might be seen as a bigger deal to be, hold this world heavyweight title. So,
one last thing, I'm gonna hate the design. I can just tell you right now, it's gonna whatever the design is, I'm not gonna like it. I'm the kind of person, it takes me a while to really come around on new designs. And I loved that IWGP design. I'm probably not going to like this new title that they designed, whatever it is.
What if it's the same design and just added world?
No, they said it's going to be an entirely. It's going to be a whole new belt. It's going to be something different. So version 5.
Yeah, I agree with. I'm not like a belt guy, but this, I mean, it's such a good belt, right? Like, it's a good looking belt. I've got a pin of it on my backpack that I carry around. Like, I'm a dork for this particular belt. I'm not a belt mutant in general, but man, it's a good looking title. And the last singles title that they had produced is a little oversized. So maybe they're going to make it the right size, maybe, because the US title is huge.
Yeah. Well, let's get into anniversary.
Yeah, so the last two big things we got to talk about here, the 49th anniversary and the New Japan Cup, they kind of blend together here. We do have two New Japan Cup first round matches on 49th anniversary. So the full card here is going to open up. We have Master Wato, Gabriel Kidd, Tomioka Hanuma, and Hiroki Goto versus Taichi, Minoru Suzuki, Zack Sabre Jr., and Doki. Then we'll have Tanahashi, Juice, Finley, Toa Henare, and Taguchi versus Evil, Kenta, Chase Owens, Jay White, and Ishii. Two New Japan Cup first round matches will have Satoshi Kojima versus Jeff Cobb, Tetsuya Naito versus the Great Okan, and then the main event, Kota Ibushi versus El Desperado, which is now for the double titles.
Three very, very interesting matches at the top of this card. I'm not going to really rag them for having so many multi-mans just because it's COVID. I understand what's going on. But we had the show literally in 2 days.
Yeah.
But Kota Ibushi, Desperado, I mean, there's the whole story there. They did a great job on commentary talking about, when Despy returned from excursion, first time he challenged for a title, almost, literally like to the day 7 years ago, was against Kota Ibushi for the junior title. Now we're at a point where tables are turned. Despy's the junior champion. Ibushi's the world heavyweight champion. And Desperado's getting his first shot at the world title as a junior, which is extremely rare, especially on these anniversary shows. So I think it's a foregone conclusion, but I'm excited for the match regardless. I was concerned that Ibushi said he wanted the junior title. And I was like, this man won't fucking stop until all the titles I like are gone.
I saw
we're gonna get a montage of Ibushi cutting weight.
Yes. I saw somebody that like a Ibushi picture with the Thanos glove with like all the titles like, as the Infinity Stones.
Like, what the fuck?
Oh man. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this anniversary show main event. I think it's gonna be a great match. And last time they faced off, Desperado was coming back from excursion and they faced off for the junior heavyweight title. So first time since then that they're having a singles match. So should be really, really good main event here. Looking forward to that. And then
just so unique that they're choosing to tack on a couple New Japan Cup matches on this show.
Yeah, normally New Japan Cup kind of has its own kind of thing, but they're starting off here at the anniversary show, and we talked about this before we started recording. They've really stretched out the schedule here for New Japan Cup. So yeah, it's starting on Thursday, and it's going to stretch all the way out to March 21st for the finals. For most shows, we're getting like 2 to 3 matches per New Japan Cup show. So let's talk about it. Let's look at the bracket. And remember, you can enter in our contest, sportprowrestling.com/KISS, sportprowrestling.com/KISS to enter into our New Japan Cup pick'em. But let's take a look at this bracket here, guys, and just overall thoughts, guys, on the bracket this year.
It's better than last year's.
Is it better than last year's that we got or last year's that we were initially promised? Because I don't know if it's better than that first bracket.
No, the one we got. The first bracket had really big matches in round one, right? This one does too, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think there's a few, but that first one had like shocking first round matches. So, but neither here nor there. I'm excited about the tournament. I love a good knockout tournament almost as much as I love a good round robin, right? So,
So you just like tournaments.
Yes. That, what you said. What I don't like is double elimination tournaments.
Oh, me either. Yeah.
People don't understand them. I can't, I can never explain them to people. Harder to make an Excel bracket for them. It's a pain in the ass.
I don't like single blocks.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I could be with you there.
Yeah.
I could be with you there. Yeah. I love a good 2-block round robin.
Yeah.
Yes, we're getting real nuanced here. When I look at, a 32-person bracket, like I just start to look at the quadrants and what's interesting in each of the quads, right? So, what's the bracket buster, right? If you're filling out your bracket, what's the match that's going to screw everyone up or that, the picks are going to kind of go 50-50, right? And, obviously, if you've looked at this bracket, there's one on the left-hand side that is gonna murder some brackets with Okada versus Shingo.
That's exactly where my eyes went as soon as you said that.
Yeah, that's definitely the most intriguing first round matchup on that left side, looks like. And yeah, that's an upset right there, either or, because I think the winner of that has a very good chance of going to the finals. And so obviously you have Okada with this whole story of wanting to get back to the IWGP title, get back into the main events. And so there's a clear story there for him to go to the finals. But Shingo is a guy, he no longer has a never title. People have been clamoring for him to be elevated and to be in more main events. He's a guy that could easily upset Okada and get to the finals. I mean, the last time they faced was G1, where Okada got the win, passing out Shingo with the money clip. So this could be Shingo's chance to get some revenge and get the win back here.
This is the tournament that I never am able to predict properly, even though I know the tropes, even though I know the bracket busters, even though, I know that if you just went by the hierarchy and you just booked based off hierarchy, you would not end up with an accurate, prediction, because there's going to be upsets. That's the nature of what the New Japan Cup is. And it's a matter of picking the right ones and not picking the wrong ones. And when I look at that side of the bracket on the left side, there's two big names that stand out. It's the Naito Khan match and then the aforementioned Okada and Shingo match. And those are the two that seem to be prime to me for being bracket busters, one or the other, maybe even both. But, because it's like, those are your big names, Naito and Okada, but they're going up against plausible opponents in the first round that could hypothetically defeat them. And we almost always see someone get knocked out that's a big name in the first round, most of the time.
Right, and I don't think you're going to see both Naito and Okada get through. I think one of those, if Okada wins, Naito's losing. If Naito wins, Okada's losing. I don't think both of them are going to get through.
Yeah, I think Okan probably beats Naito. If I had to, honestly, I could see them both knocking out.
I could see both knocking out. Yeah.
I do. I think that's honestly going to end up being my official, like, my bracket that I pay attention to. Like, not my, like, I'm gambling bracket, but like my real, here's what I think is going to happen. Like, I think I knock them both out. I mean, the bracket I've got filled out right now, I knock them both out. And I think about a guy like Shingo. Shingo went 1 and done in New Japan Cup last year. He lost a show in the first round. So, not that New Japan Cup, like, history is quite as, like, renowned as something like the G1, but, like, I don't know. He went 1 and done last year. You figure he's probably going to get a run. Oftentimes when a guy loses the Never Championship, they lose up, right? So, and he hasn't done anything since losing the Never Championship. He lost to Hiroshi Tanahashi, which, like, doesn't hurt him at all in a banger of a match, right? Shingo's never going to win a G1. He could win New Japan Cup. This is one of those. This is the tournament that, like, pretty much anyone can win.
And listen, I hear everything you guys are saying. It makes sense. It's plausible, but it's Kazuchika motherfucking Okada. It's a tough call. I think I called Gato beating Okada in the first round in last year's. I wanted the super ultra, upset. One thing I could see either one of these two scenarios playing out. One thing though is I'm telling you right now, I'm not calling for any more Okan upsets until he actually does one, because I think twice now I've thought he was going to beat Tanahashi and it didn't happen, and so I'm not putting any more stock in him. I'm selling, and maybe if things turn around, I'll change my tune. But I don't know what happens with him and Naito.
So you really want another Naito Evil match, huh?
Oh God!
If Naito wins, he probably goes through either Yano and Bad Luck Fale, and then really Evil's probably going to match up with Jeff Cobb.
Which that match actually sounds pretty appealing to me.
Totally.
Evil and Cobb.
But Evil hasn't gotten a win. He's got this wacky bye. You can play it up that he's fresh. He's coming in fresh. And he could beat Cobb, and then you end up with Evil Naito in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So
but here's the thing.
Run it back again, I guess.
I don't think Okan's going to beat Evil. I don't think he's at that level to beat Evil. So it's like, which Evil scenario do I want? Do I want the one where Naito can beat Evil, and I have to sit through another one of those fucking things, but Naito actually gets through? Or do I want the one where I have to watch the fresh matchup in him and Okan? And that, as much as I like Okan, a gimmicky Evil Okan match kind of doesn't sound that good to me. And then I got to see Evil go into, the semifinal against, either Shingo or Okada. None of those sound good to me. That sounds shitty. Like, God, I fucking hate Evil. I hate him. I want Naito to win.
But then you're a big Jeff Cobb fan, right? Because he's probably going to get through Kojima, and then you want Cobb to just knock Evil out, and you don't have to mess around with it.
I'm going to be going so hard for Jeff Cobb on 311. You have no idea.
Oh, man. And so, something we should mention, so Evil and Tanahashi got first-round buys. Evil got a first-round buy because he won last year's New Japan Cup. Tanahashi gets a first-round buy because he's the only singles champion in the tournament. So looking at the right side of the bracket as far as a potential bracket buster, I'm looking at March 9th, Tomohiro Ishii versus Sonata. I think those are
tough one.
Those are two guys that, had they been matched up against anybody else, you could see them getting through into the next round. Obviously, previous years, the whole story of New Japan Cup has been the elevation of Sonata. Every year, he made it closer and closer into each round until he eventually finally won the tournament to face Okada. Personally, I feel that story, it's done. We don't need any more Sonata's run in the New Japan Cups. So that could lend to Ishii getting a big win there, which would make sense because then obviously Nagata's probably going to beat Tsuji, and then you get a banger of Nagata and Ishii on the 14th.
One other thing in that upper right quadrant there, you got Will's probably beating Tenzan most likely, and then you got Zach beating Gabriel Kidd. That means we're getting on probably most likely on 314 Will Ospreay against Zack Sabre Jr., which is like
great matchup.
I cannot.
Happy birthday, me.
Yeah, I cannot fucking wait. But that could potentially. I think most people will likely, have Will going through, and that's probably what's going to happen. But you just never know. Zack Sabre's won one of these tournaments before. He does well in these tournaments. He's kind of beat Will in most of their singles matches to date. Will's never beat him in a singles match in New Japan, so that would be the first time he's ever done that. There is a chance Zach could possibly knock out Will depending on what they wanted these brackets to look like by the end of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that rematch.
So you know how when you asked who should Hiroshi Tanahashi defend the Never Openweight Championship against earlier, and I jumped straight to Jay White. Check out that bottom right.
Yeah, that's definitely happening. Toa Henare Jay White is a pretty intriguing first round match, and it's going to main event too. That's going to be a really great opportunity for Henare. But yeah, I think Jay and Tanahashi, that's another one of those, pick'ems.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people are going to go with Jay in that one, right?
Yeah, I have Jay going through on my bracket.
I've got Jay to the final four.
But then very often these New Japan Cups, you get one set of four guys that you're just kind of like, I don't know what the fuck to do with these guys. And it's funny, last year's winner, Evil, was in one of those brackets where he was in that quadrant where you're like, what the fuck is this? None of these guys are winning. And
right.
Then, lo and behold, Evil won. But that's what we got with Chase, Dave Finlay, Yoshihashi, and Yujiro. And, one of those guys is going to fight either Henare, Jay White, or Tanahashi. I think, Jeremy, you got Dave Finlay and Jay White slotted for a, quarterfinal, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of history with Finlay and Jay White as young Lions and their rivalry since they both graduated. We've seen that kind of continue. They've kind of been on pause for a while here, and so I think it's a great time to kind of rekindle that feud. They had some great matches together, so I think it makes a ton of sense to do that Finlay Jay White match there.
Yeah, that's a good story. I like that.
One thing with this aspect, you can kind of fuck around with these guys, with Dave Finlay, Chase Owens, Yoshihashi, and Yujiro, and it's probably going to be inconsequential because none of them are going to go through. But this is one of those things that will bust people's brackets because it's kind of hard to pick between, if you're in one of those contests, it's kind of hard to pick. And I think a lot of people are probably going to go Finlay on top and Yoshihashi on top, but then you got a face versus face match, which they may do. But I'm banking on the idea that they're going to have a heel-face dynamic going into the next round. So I'm guessing either Dave Finlay or Yoshihashi are going to get upset. I'm leaning towards Yujiro beating Yoshihashi.
Sure. Why not?
Could happen.
So, Yoshihashi was great in the G1, but he didn't get a lot of wins, right? So if you're looking at the booking, Yoshihashi singles, he's not primed to go on a run by any means. So he could get knocked out.
Right.
He could get knocked out, yeah.
Or you could go the opposite way. You could go Yujiro, or you could go Yoshihashi and Chase Owens. That's always an option here. So this is kind of one of those ones that seems inconsequential, but if you're trying to have the most accurate bracket, it's going to be hard to kind of call that part of it.
Yeah. I also feel like the bottom left is another one of those sections where there's some people there that you don't think are going to go through. But again, if you want the accurate bracket, it's kind of hard to predict. So obviously you got Suzuki Honma there. So I think that's clear that Suzuki's going to get beat Honma. Then you got Juice.
Better.
You got Juice.
Honma's never won a New Japan Cup match. So, Honma Mania, let's do it again. We got to build it up real quick, but he's 0-8.
Then you got Juice and Kenta.
That's a tough one.
Which was a tough one. That was supposed to happen at Wrestle Kingdom, but then Juice got the orbital bone injury. Kenta's coming.
That's a good story.
Yeah, Kenta's coming off the Mox loss. He's gonna want a big win and rebound. So this is a toss up here. This is another pick 'em. I think either guy could win here.
I mean,
but I know what I want.
Yeah,
I want Kenta to win because I want Kenta Suzuki.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to
for
say.
the first time in ages. I mean, I know that they've done it. Chris Charlton tweeted it earlier today. I mean, it's been a long time since those two met. But I want that. I want that bad.
Yeah, on my bracket, I got Juice Suzuki going. I just feel like, kind of taking Josh's logic, some matches you need that kind of face heel dynamic. And plus, Juice missed out on the Wrestle Kingdom match. So I think you give him some momentum there to beat Kenta, and then you do Juice and Suzuki.
That's
Juice
true.
would stop getting punched in the face and missing cards.
It's true, but there is that, precedent there that like Suzuki could either be the top heel or the top face in any given match, depending on how he wants to work it. So it really just depends,
Yeah.
There's some interesting scenarios here. I mean, what other aspects of this thing? We got some questions. What else do you guys want to talk about when it comes to how this plays out?
I guess what's your final four? If either of you have kind of pulled it together.
So my final four. So on the right side, I have Ospreay, Jay White. Then on the left side, I came down to Okada, Evil.
Oh God, again?
Hey, so
I'm so mad at you.
Okada
You're making me recognize that could happen.
So Okada got the win back at Castle Attack, but he needs a New Japan Cup win back. So I think Okada's going to beat Evil, and then I think that Ospreay's going to beat Jay White. I got Okada Ospreay final. You run back the Wrestle Kingdom match, and then you have Ospreay get the win back, and Ospreay's your New Japan Cup winner, first challenger for the World Heavyweight title for Kota Ibushi. You got a banger set up for your first World Heavyweight title match for Sakura Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Some joker's gonna have Evil Jay White in their finals. It's gonna happen.
Oh, people, that's a conversation point for sure. I'm seeing that. Club battle.
Yeah. Man, this one is really. I'm not good at this, and I like to do things I'm good at, and I hate when I'm not good at it. And realistically, I barely looked at this thing off the air because, I mean, I literally just caught up on Castle Attack right before we went on the air. So I think in my top left quadrant, just looking at it, I'm probably either going Naito or Evil. Let's just say Naito. I'm going Shingo Naito as my semifinal. And then on the other side, I'm going Will Ospreay against Jay White. I think that sounds about right to me. And then I think
the Dave Meltzer bracket. That's his final.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't listen to him today, or when did he say that? Maybe I did.
He did a show he's on the same show I was on with Garrett. He did an interview later where they picked out their brackets.
Well, he's a smart man. So am I.
Who would you have win though?
I believe those are my three. Three of the guys that are in it are the three most likely winners in my opinion, which is to a lesser degree Jay, but I think it's going to come down to either Will or Shingo. I actually wouldn't be opposed to getting another Will Shingo match in the final of the New Japan Cup. I don't know that they're going to do that, but the way I booked it out, they absolutely could. So let's go ahead and be a little, fan friendly here. Let's get some shit popping. We're going Shingo Will Ospreay, and at that point you could toss it up. I don't really care who wins. Let's just say Will, because I think Will makes a lot of sense.
That's what I've got as my final for my draft. I won't call this my official bracket. But yeah, as I drafted through it, I liked that as the final. I like that both of those guys. Shingo's got like a really short term story with Ibushi. Ibushi kind of taunted him with double belts. Who knows what this new championship, what the protection of it is, right? We very infrequently saw a guy like Shingo Takagi win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Someone who really made their name somewhere else came in pretty established.
Three guys.
Right. Very, very few, right? So
Tenryu,
maybe
Takayama, and Ibushi.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. So maybe this is a new leaf, right?
Possibly.
Like new title, different look at it, different protections, different logic, right? So maybe Shingo is the first guy to win it. I don't know. I don't know if Ibushi's going to lose his first defense if they want to establish this as a top tier title either. But I mean, ultimately in my draft bracket here, I do have Ospreay winning though. But yeah, I do have Shingo Ospreay as the final, mostly because I'm a brat and that's what I want.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that would be a great final. Let's run through some of these questions that we have here on New Japan Cup. First from Reddit user, why did you do that, bro? It seems that either Naito or Okada is getting knocked out early in New Japan Cup because they are both on the same side of the bracket, which is more likely, Shingo beating Okada or Okan beating Naito?
I think Shingo beating Okada is the more likely scenario. It doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, but I find that to be more likely personally than Okan beating Naito.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Next question from our user NJPW1234. So far this year, Great Okan has been featured very prominently, having 2 high-profile matches with Tanahashi. Is there a risk of him outshining Ospreay if he manages to knock off Naito in the New Japan Cup?
I don't know, especially, I mean, if it's booked out the way that a lot of people have it, that Ospreay wins it, I don't see how he could, quote-unquote, outshine him. I think a lot of people, because he is the one that's doing the most character work and cutting all the awesome promos that he's doing, they're kind of getting this sort of vibe that he's the real leader of the group. And I think most of that's just wishful thinking, to be honest with you. I think it's just basically a role that he's the mouthpiece, and mainly because it's Japanese audiences and they've got a Japanese speaker who's a great promo and they're trying to get him over. But I don't see him in any way as outshining Ospreay, or I just think he's a guy that they featured in a feud recently. And this is a pretty infantile, stable. And I don't see how he could possibly outshine Ospreay coming off of 2 back-to-back major losses. And then probably, hypothetically, I don't know if the Naito win would completely undo the losses to Tanahashi that quickly. I don't see that. I'm
betting on this tournament being the tournament that kind of reestablishes Ospreay as the top guy in the singles division for New Japan. So I think even if Okan makes it to the Final 4 or Elite 8, whatever, like even if he snags this big win over Naito, which would be his moment, I don't think he's gonna have a moment where he goes much further than that, right, in a meaningful way, right? Like even if he burns through 2 more matches, they're not against top tier opponents like that.
Evil's gonna beat him.
Ospreay's got the Tenzan match, and then he probably goes through Zack Sabre Jr., and then he probably gets either, I guess, Ishii or Sonata, right? So he's got big high stakes matches as they go through the tournament if he's going to go through the end, and then in the Final 4 he's probably looking at Jay White, unless there's a really big surprise out of that side of the bracket, I guess White or Tanahashi, but either way that's a big match. So if Ospreay's going through, this is a big establisher for him.
Yeah. If you look at those names, ZSJ, Sonata, 2 of the most prolific New Japan Cup competitors in the last couple years, that really adds a lot of credibility if those happen to be the 2 guys he beats specifically.
Right. Sure. And, at the end of the day, I know people might not like him, but Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I love Great Okan, but he's just not on Ospreay's level in ring yet. And so I don't think there's a way for him in ring wise to outshine Ospreay. Ospreay, he has a great side of the bracket there, and he's going to have some great matches. So I don't think there's a chance for him to get outshined by Okan.
Peace on 91 asked us, what do you guys think about Evil and Tanahashi both getting a bye in the first round of the New Japan Cup? Surely they could have thrown some juniors in the tournament like Despy and or Show to take the number of participants up to 32.
Yeah, kind of interesting that, there's some guys, like you mentioned, Tama Tonga Tangaloa, that they could have thrown in there.
Maybe.
There's some juniors that could have thrown in there. But I do like the idea of the winner of the New Japan Cup, kind of a reward you get that bye. And I like the fact, Tanahashi is the only singles champion in the tournament, giving him a bye. So I like the reasoning that those guys got buys. And also, if we think the schedule is normal, Best of Super Juniors is coming up, so you want to get those juniors some rests before that tournament comes up after Secure Genesis. So maybe that's the reason why the juniors are not in it.
I mean, I like that they attached logic to it, like they made something out of it, right? There's not a precedent for any of these things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So it's weird. And they filled this tournament with freaking Jado and Gato, and I mean, there's guys that they could have plugged. There's probably heavyweights that they could have plugged in. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but like, I feel like there's someone floating around that could have hopped in there.
Ewan Moore's not in this tournament, right?
Right.
What's up?
Uemura.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A young lion. I don't know. I think they're trying to bill him as a junior.
Right, because Gabe Kidd and Tsuji are in this.
I guess that's
right.
True, yeah.
So
I'm thinking they used all the heavyweights that they have available to them at this current time. That's what I think. I don't think there's anyone left, personally, based off of looking at the roster and everything like that. They've got everybody in there.
Except GOD.
Except for GOD, which
where
is
are they going? Where are they going? Where are they heading?
Yeah, and I'm with you, Chris. I like the logic, but they've never done this before, and guess what? They're not going to do it again, so there won't be consistency with it. But
there's not with this tournament and buys anyway. If you look back in time, like there's goofy play-in matches, and there's all sorts of stuff. So
never mind all that.
Next question here from Dundiesel86. I feel like this weekend was full of surprises. I figured we'd have new champs for the US IC Never title, and I was sure ELP was going over. Not to say I'm disappointed. In fact, I love when a promotion can throw me for a loop. That being said, what kind of surprises do you think we'll get at the anniversary show and New Japan Cup?
Well, I think the New Japan Cup is always full of surprises, and we've kind of stated that. I think some of these bracket busters are going to be pretty surprising. God, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think we've kind of covered a lot of it extensively. Is there anything that you guys are banking on that people wouldn't expect as like a kind of an upset? Not the ones we've talked about, but just like ones that you're like, that
there's going to be surprising stuff that happens. I mean, Yano could roll up Okan and in the quarters or whatever. Like these type of things can happen,
crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean,
so
one thing we didn't really address is the Young Lions, Tsuji and Gabe Kidd. I mean, we're kind of assuming they're going to get beat by Ospreay and Nagata, but a guy like Tsuji's been in the system for a while now. It could be time for him to graduate. What if this
is fighting a dad? What
if this is his way to kind of graduate and he's going to debut as like a new gimmick by beating Nagata? Like, that's something wild and crazy that could happen.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, if we get a Yota Tsuji Tomohiro Ishii match, oh my God. But yeah, I don't know. There's not like in the early first rounds, there's not a lot that I see as being like too much of a shocking surprises, honestly.
Yeah.
Unless you got Hinare going over Jay.
I thought of that. That would be. That'd
be wild.
Do that. Yeah. One thing I think that would be kind of surprising, but not at the same time, is Tanahashi going through all the way to the quarters, because I think most people are kind of just discounting him and counting him out, but he's coming in with a bye against Jay White, and that might be the, sort of the catalyst for him doing well on that side of the bracket. Because if he gets past Jay, there's really not a lot of opposition until he gets to the finals. We could end up with a Tanahashi. I'm changing it. Tanahashi, Will Ospreay, quarterfinal.
Yeah,
that'd be a
semi-final. So that's a possibility.
That'd be sweet. Yeah. I mean, no, I got no issue with that.
Fuck all this J noise.
Moving on to Dom Homie 101. He says, thoughts on the seeding of this year's New Japan Cup? What matches you guys are looking forward to? Any bold predictions? Any upset specials? So I feel like we covered
a lot of it, but is there anything that you see as a likelihood of a match that you're just like out of your mind ecstatic for, that you see right now?
Kenta Suzuki.
Yeah.
Let's go. If I don't get that match now, after now it's planted in my brain that it's going to happen. Oh, I'll be a sad man.
I think from the first round, I'm really looking forward to Okada Shingo. I really loved their match G1 last year, and so that's definitely going to be a banger. A low-key first round that I'm excited for is Gabe Kidd and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yes.
They have had a lot of great interactions in the multi-man matches on these previous tours, and I think that can be a really standout, Mac classic.
We've seen it before, but never in a tournament context. Nagata Tsuji is probably going to be very good, very, very hard-hitting and violent, which I like. Obviously, Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., if that happens in the second round, which I think it will, that's going to be nuts. And I love their matches, so there's that. Trying to think. Goto Taichi, we haven't really talked about that, but that probably will actually be really good. They always have bangers, don't they?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's going to bust some brackets, too, because you could pick either of them.
Yeah, that's a 50-50.
For whatever reason.
And then you kind of got to figure out which one of them's going through to fight the winner of Okada Shingo. And, that match, whatever it might be, could end up being really good. I think Taichi and Shingo had like an awesome match in the G1 this year.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously Shingo and Goto always rules too. So, provided Shingo goes through, you've got two ready-made opponents for him right there.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff here.
Yeah, that's a good quadrant.
Yeah.
Then his second question, he says, I only got one hot take for you guys this week. Hot take number one, with the New Japan Cup beginning in a few days, I feel like this could be the reset the company needs. I feel like maybe this tournament could be a way to elevate guys like Shingo, Jeff Cobb, Yota Tsuji, Great Okan, Will Ospreay, Taichi, and maybe Juice Robinson to a high level. Plus, I feel like New Japan could use this tournament to do different angles and different stories.
That's what it's here for, brother.
Yes, that's what happens.
Then last question here.
That's exactly where we're headed.
Last question here from Musley says, what matches are you low-key excited for in the first round New Japan Cup? Kid vs. CSA is one I can keep an eye out for. Hanare vs. Jay White, considering that this is a main event match for Hanare, will be intriguing to watch.
Absolutely. So we've got the schedule here. One thing I just want to say, I'm not a big fan of the fact that they traditionally would have done 4 matches for the first round on each single night. So you would start off with basically 4 nights for the first 4 quadrants and then so on and so forth. But they've really, really spread this out. It's like they've basically cut it all in half, and we're getting like 16 shows.
Yeah.
That's a fuck ton. Especially with us covering on the show, I'm not a big fan of that personally. I mean, I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, I think that in the content era of professional wrestling, you have to be a little selective of what you dig in on as a fan, right? Like you guys, me, we're going to watch largely everything, right? Pretty much anyone who's kind of attached to a certain product in a way that they're producing something supporting it is going to be very mindful and watching everything. If someone's just watching the New Japan Cup matches, though, I mean, what's a couple of probably really good matches a day when it really comes down to it? Almost every day for the first 20 days of March, including the anniversary card here, where you really got the big top 3 and the first 2 matches are nothing. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of sweet. It's just kind of this slow drip of probably really good matches that you can just focus in on the stakes. So, I mean, I choose to see it as a positive that in regards to my coverage and what I do for the broadcast team, I only have to pull together stuff for 2 matches a day, and I've got plenty of space to get ahead of each round, I guess, too. With a couple of days spreading it out if I want to send it over as a full round. So I'm into it. And listen, times are tough. They got to make some money. So they got to sell some tickets to a bunch of different shows. And I'm a big fan of the business being at least healthy, even, if they're treading water right now. So, that's kind of my take. It's basically 2 matches per show. And then there's a couple of cards that have 3.
Yeah, I don't like the slow drip. I want the big dose. Put it in my veins.
You want old school G1 10 tournament matches in a night.
I love that.
Those are great cards. Don't get me wrong. I think that there's value to that too. They could have banged this tournament out in like 3 days,
right?
Maybe 4. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, it does seem like a lot, but I mean, if you're only watching the New Japan Cup matches, I think it's an easier way to kind of digest it. I mean, I'm sure that the undercard tags will be good and will be great previews, but I think you can kind of slide by just watching the cup matches.
No, you're going to miss out on the nuance of the storytelling. Don't listen to these fools.
However, will I know that the iron fingers are important?
Oh, man. So March 4th, which is also the anniversary show in Budokan Hall. Like we mentioned, we're going to have Kojima versus Jeff Cobb, where the winner will face Evil on March 11th. Then we have Tetsuya Naito versus Great Khan on March 5th in Korakuen Hall. We have Toru Yano versus Bad Luck Fale, Taichi versus Hiroki Goto. On March 6th in Ota City General Gymnasium, we'll have Hanma versus Suzuki, Juice Robinson versus Kenta, and Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi. March 7th, we'll have Gabriel Kidd versus Zack Sabre Jr. and Hiroshi Tenzan versus Will Ospreay. March 9th, we'll have Yuji Nagata versus Yoda Tsuji, Tomohiro Ishii versus Sonata, and then March 10th, David Finlay versus Chase Owens, Yoshihashi versus Yujiro Takahashi, and then Toa Hanare versus Jay White, with the winner facing Tanahashi on March 15th.
Very exciting. Cannot wait.
So, that wraps up New Japan Cup. Just a couple quick news items here. So we had a statement coming out last week from New Japan and CMLL, a joint statement reaffirming their working relationship. In a joint statement, New Japan and CMLL assured fans that their relationship is unwavering. The statement noted that CMLL will continue to be the exclusive business partner of New Japan in Mexico. Part of the statement here says New Japan Pro Wrestling is proud to issue this joint declaration with CMLL to reaffirm our mutual commitment. That statement said there is plenty more to come from NJPW's partnership with CMLL in the future, and we appreciate your support.
Did you guys see something about like a lot of Lucha fans being down on CMLL for some reason recently online?
They haven't done anything in a while.
Yeah.
And they've been a little disjointed, I think, through their. I mean, and this is just by following Cubs fan. CMLL is kind of less prestigious right now than like AAA.
Yeah, I think I saw him tweet something that said like, if they don't win worst promotion of the year, then it's like a robbery. And I just didn't understand the context. I was like, are they like fucking up, or I don't know what's going on, because I'm not following that product right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's been going on in Mexico, but
well, we are proud partners.
We know that one day Fantastica Mania will return.
Good. I think that's good. I wasn't a believer until now.
Yeah, I miss that music, man. Real quick, we kind of briefly mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Strong, but just want to mention it so people know that we've covered it, that we talked about it. I mean, we're not going to go in depth on this at all, but Dave
today.
Today. But Dave Meltzer confirmed that Marty Scurll worked at the recent New Japan Strong tapings in California. He did not verify the story that Scurll was involved in a post-match angle with Rocky Romero that was reported by Fanbyte's Emily Pratt. And due to the non-disclosure agreements, also it's been very hard to get information on what happened here. Fightful was the first to report an involvement, with Pratt reporting that he was at the January 22nd day of tapings. It is unknown how many shows that he will appear on as a part of tapings and when they will air. Like Josh mentioned earlier, I mean, due to the fan backlash, they could completely decide to scrap what was taped.
Maybe. We don't know the full extent of what, if, like, let's say if it was just a little segment, which, my thinking is if you bring a guy like that out and you're doing a whole set of tapings, you're probably not just doing the one segment at the tail end of the tapings. They probably used him
right
extensively throughout the taping. So, I don't know if that's even an option at this point, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
They might be wise to kind of kill this one.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is I don't think it's a great idea, especially on the U.S. show for the Western expansion. I just think it's a bad call.
At this point, either one of them, they were going to get bad backlash. Yeah.
And then last note here regarding talks of access right now. Apparently, the New Japan is in talks with several other companies, several other U.S. stations we talked about last week, Access being one of them, but they are continuing to shop around even with, the Roku deal in place.
Well, Dave said that they had the Roku deal. If that went well, it would lead to maybe potentially other television deals. So those Roku numbers must be fucking like out of this world because they're already in talks with other companies. So, Roku's killing it right now.
We did have a question relating to that from Viking Pain. It's thoughts on New Japan entering negotiations for a new U.S. TV deal, and could this be a reason why they feel the need to create a world title, especially if they land on a major network?
Well, they already had a world title. It just didn't have the word world title in it.
Yeah.
But, I think it's great. I think if anything that comes out of the Forbidden Door opening, if that thing is New Japan ends up back on national television and cable here in the States, then I'm all for the Forbidden Door being open because that's what I really want to have happen. Is they need television, they need it desperately.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that one, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make all the sense in the world, especially if I guess the line is going to be blurred with Impact, AEW, Ring of Honor, like all the, I guess, semi-major to major partners that New Japan is kind of making in the U.S. So you don't see a Ring of Honor statement coming out, a joint statement from Ring of Honor, right? So, and we know that Impact and certain key members of the New Japan US side of things are really good friends and could be very close business partners as things go along. So, doing a little block with Access, a 3-hour wrestling block, which they've kind of tested by doing some secondary programming with Impact, butting right up to Impact. That's just the name of their show, right?
Yeah,
it's just called Impact.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and they did like the night Juice and Finley were on. They had a 1-hour block afterwards, and I forget what they called their kind of secondary show that they have on sometimes, but it was all New Japan Exploded. Yeah, it was all New Japan.
Featured
kind of
guys. Yeah, it was like
right. So it was like all the old
stuff
school
from like 06, 05 time frame.
Yeah, right. So maybe that was a test that did. I mean, it did good ratings by Access standards. It did really good ratings. So people want this product on TV. They want to be able to keep up, in a way that's easy for them to flip on the channel. So, and I checked out the Roku thing. Like the only thing I could say about the Roku video, they've only loaded up some like pretty old stuff by our standards. It's almost a year old, but like it looks fantastic as compared to the New Japan World stream.
It's so much better.
It looks I mean, like it 4K, looks clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So worth checking out if you haven't watched some of those matches in a while. Like, I don't know, get the good eyes out,
Have you guys ever seen that meme where like someone is like playing dominoes and the dominoes are stacking up, getting bigger and bigger, and it's like, basically it's a chain of events, and the smallest one is like Prince Devitt turns on Apollo Go-Go, and then like the biggest one is like AEW forms. Well, there's an alternate to that where it's like Vince leaves Saudi Arabia, the Forbidden Door gets open, because who knows if this fucking partnership would even be happening had he not fucking left Gallows and Anderson on that fucking, over there in Saudi Arabia and all that shit.
Yeah. Question here from our user Dino Boy. He says, last week the young boy mentioned New Japan's history of running cage matches. Do either of you have any favorites or any recommendations?
No favorites, no recommendations. There've been 5. There's 2 that are kind of easily accessible and widely known. There's the empty arena cage match between Murakami and Tanahashi, and it's terrible. I mean, if you want to see a really crazy fucking bad New Japan match, watch the Tanahashi Murakami match. It's comedy gold. It's fucking bloody too. Like, I don't know, that match is not good. And then there was one we reviewed that I recommended that I do like, but I wouldn't say like it's out of this world or recommended, required viewing. That was Takayama against Chono in the Konami cage death match, and that's pretty good. It's too long, and then it's got a fuck finish, but overall it's a good match. The other ones were both on the lockup events that they used to do, and though I've never found footage of them. I saw footage on Instagram the other day of the Makabe one, and I watched some of it, but I've never actually been able to find, unless I went to back channels. And then the last one was Inoki against, I think, Tiger Jeet Singh in like the 70s. And it's called a fence match. I don't think there's tape of it, or if there is, it's like lost to time, because I've never found that either.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them, so
that means there's a wide open door. If someone wants to put on a good cage match in New Japan, you don't even have to aim that high. There's not really a precedent there.
Here comes your weekly boxing question from Dom Homie 101.
Nice.
He says, young boy, thoughts on boxing icon Antonio Tarver fighting MMA icon Frank Mir on the Snoop Dogg Fight Club on Thriller. To me, it's a circus fight similar to the Canelo fight from last Saturday, but it's nice to see the Magic Man fight again. Also, do you think Triller could do something in the wrestling world similar to the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones event?
I don't know that I'd call that Canelo fight a circus fight. That's a little bit harsh. Frank Mir against Tarver, I don't know if anyone cares. I mean, I don't know the last time Tarver fought. It's probably been 6-7 years, and Frank Mir wasn't really moving numbers at the tail end of his UFC career or any of his Bellator, matches. I watched him wrestle at Bloodsport. I mean, it wasn't like anyone was there to see Frank Mir wrestle. So I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to watch this, to be honest with you. Who knows? I mean, I remember when Ray Mercer knocked out fucking Tim Sylvia, and that was super unexpected. So, who knows? It's not like it's MMA rules either. So, Tarver's probably going to fuck up Frank Mir, most likely. As far as, could they do something similar to what they did with, Roy Jones and Mike Tyson and it be successful? I don't think so. I remember a few years ago, they tried that. They tried to do a special dream match with Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio.
Oh, yeah, I remember
on some fight card. It was an independent thing, and it didn't do well. I think you do need to be attached to some sort of brand or some sort of big marketing. I don't know that there's any wrestling stars big enough, unless it's The Rock or John Cena wrestling someone of note like CM Punk or some shit like that, or Kenny Omega or Brock Lesnar. I in the States, I don't see anything really drawing. If The Rock wrestled somebody and it was independent, that's the only scenario I could see where a Triller could come along and market it,
Yeah. Which will probably not happen.
It's never going to happen. There's no stars. Maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled. I don't know.
Stone Cold and Rock.
If Stone Cold and The Rock wrestled, that would draw. That's your Roy Jones and Mike Tyson situation.
That's a hot take, Josh.
Next question here from our friend Rich Latta over at One Nation Radio. He wants to know, young boy, how will you be celebrating Women's History Month?
We have a gimmick here where I always bury women's wrestling because we got asked so many questions about why New Japan doesn't have women's wrestling. So now I just always act like I do like women's wrestling. I watch it all the time.
Yeah, you do.
I do. And I'm gonna be celebrating Women's History Month by respecting all the women in my life and honoring them. I don't know. What do you do for Women's History Month? I don't know what you do.
Watch him Joshi.
Okay.
Watch him Stardom, the Budokan Hall of Stardom show.
Yeah, right? Get into
That's tonight.
Yeah.
That's tonight? Yeah, tonight.
Yeah.
By the time people hear this, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Stale Burger Bun asked us, which two mid-card wrestlers would you merge together to create a shiny new main eventer? Hard mode. You cannot use Ishii.
What a weird question.
I like it.
Let me go look at my New Japan Cup bracket. Find some mid-carders.
Yeah, you gotta wonder who's on the roster.
Hey, I mean, are we playing Joe Lanza rules? Is Despy a mid-carder? Or
yes.
Nah?
I mean, maybe not anymore. aren't all juniors kind of mid-carders?
Don't let the internet hear you say that.
I mean,
they will be upset. And then Chris Charlton will bury you on commentary.
I mean, I'm just telling the truth. Yeah, that was funny. Oh, this show's opening with that.
No, don't do that. It's going to open a different show this week.
Oh, well, we already recorded and everything.
Trying to get a peek under the hood.
Oh man. Who would you guys merge together? I might go Toa Hanare and I don't know, Yoshihashi.
Man, yeah, that makes a main eventer. I don't know. I don't think about putting two humans together to make one, except in different contexts.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
That's the last question, right?
Yes. I can't even answer after that. That was just.
We were supposed to bury Dave Meltzer on this show. We didn't do it, but
I know.
We can move on. We're at 2 hours 53 minutes.
Yeah, so
we kept it at a tight 3 hours this week.
Yeah, right at we wanted that 3 hour mark. So last thing here, recommended match of the week. So last week, Josh, you picked Kara Maeda versus Tatsumi Fujinami from the NJPW IWGP Champion Series 1986, June 12th, 86. I watched this match, and it was freaking awesome.
Yep.
This was a fight. This felt like a shoot. Maeda was killing Fujinami with the kicks. A lot of great submissions, a lot of great suplexes throughout the match. One thing I love about the match was the crowd was popping for the most simplest moves. A leg kick, crowd was losing their mind. Shoulder tag, a crowd was losing their mind. The guy would grab a rope for the rope break, crowd was losing their mind. The crowd was really into this match. Very hard hitting, great transition, great chain wrestling. Maeda busts Fujinami open for wheel kick. You got some color there. It's an extra, half a star bump right there for some color.
Yeah. Josh Smith rules.
Yep. Which led to a draw finish, a double knockout finish. But overall, yeah, just really hard hitting, great grappling, great matchup here.
Yeah, man. It's just, wrestling in that day and age was just more rough and tumble. Men were men. They carried guns in their bags into the locker room. Nowadays,
they did drugs.
They did drugs.
Oh man. So Chris,
that's when wrestling was wrestling. It's gotten soft,
They all play video games.
Can you?
Thanks, Mr. Calloway.
I know he was just talking about WWE, but can you imagine thinking for instance, New Japan was soft, modern day? Come on, bro, that's dumb.
Chris, I believe you have a recommended match of the week for us.
I ran the New Japan Cup finals through a randomizer, and what I landed on is the 2014 final between Shinsuke Nakamura and Bad Luck Fale from March 23rd, 2014. I've never watched it. I have no idea if it's good.
It's good.
I love that it exists.
It's good. It's really good.
Is that the match where Nakamura gets busted open?
Nakamura bleeds a shit ton. It is fucking awesome. And it's hard way.
Nice.
And it's both of these guys, if I'm looking at the card right, they ran the semis and the finals on the same night. So it's both their second match of the night. So I like that style too. So yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna get off the line here and I'm gonna flip it on.
Nice.
So yeah, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bad Luck Fale, 2014 New Japan Cup Finals. Check it out on NJPW World. Use the NJPW EXT to check that out. And that's going to wrap things up. Chris, go ahead and get all your plugs in, man.
Just the one, man. SporterProWrestling.com. Enter my contest. Enter the Keeping It Strong Style contest. All my previews for each of the either rounds or cards. I'm not sure how I'm going to post them for all the New Japan Cup stats and history that I'm going to put together for the broadcast team. Will be over there. Otherwise, find me on Twitter, the Chris Samsa.
Nice. And remember, you can enter the contest, sportofprowrestling.com, the Keeping a Strong Style contest, sportofprowrestling.com/kiss, sportofprowrestling.com/KISS to enter our contest First prize, $50 Pro Wrestling Tees gift card. Second place, you get a Lions Pride book by Chris Charlton. Third place, the Shinsuke Nakamura King of Strong Style book. So go ahead and get those entries in. You have until Thursday, a really quick turnaround to get all your picks into all the different pick'em contests.
That means, hypothetically, there might not be as many people entering. It means you might be, getting a chance to boost your chances of winning this thing. So, be sure to enter the contest so we can, give you some cool shit.
Yeah, so thanks again for listening to this week and supporting us. Chris, thanks again for hopping on this week and chatting some New Japan Cup and all Castle Attack, all this stuff that we have to talk about this week.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for coming on. I think this is the most content-filled episode we've ever done with you, and it's also maybe the shortest and the tightest.
What did we just accomplish? Let's not set a precedent here.
Well, yeah, so that's going to wrap things up. Next week, we'll be back to review the anniversary show and the first few matches of the New Japan Cup. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is @KIStrongStyle. The network is @socialsuplex. I'm @Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/socialsuplex. In the Wrestling Squared Circle, or facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're @socialsuplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd, the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland, The Grave Consequences with Caleb and Maserati, the 8-Bit Suplex Podcast with Josh Number 2 and Sandy, All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, and The Great Match Generator with Danny. So don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.